Well, howdy do there, partners. Hello, hello. Welcome to the show. It has started. Hi to the YouTube chat. Y'all are pretty active today. How's it going? And also, hello to the website chat. What's up, Gay Fish? There's Donu Umayowo. Haven't seen you in a minute. What's up? Jade, hello. Piras, hello. Good grief. Yeah, we're talking about Shmushmorshin later on today. That's gonna be kind of our main topic, I guess. A couple of other things. I've got several links open. Y'all are very generous about posting links in the Discord server. So we've got stuff to cover. Hello, Corpse Candy. I've missed so many streams. Yeah, it's hard out there when you're working. You got stuff to do. I know a lot of people are out there doing family stuff today because, Memorial Day weekend and all that. I'm determined, if at all possible, to not leave my house at all until like Tuesday, because there's so much more traffic, and I don't actually know if it's the case, but I highly suspect that on holiday weekends, like traffic collisions are probably going to be increased. There's definitely more people at the store, and I just, me, I avoid people whenever possible. So, I'm mostly just chilling at home this weekend. The pools are open. I'm sure I'll go swimming later on. It sucks. Like, my hair is so healthy and gorgeous, and I don't want to, like, screw that up by going swimming. But also, I love swimming. So, what's up, Shellbell? Hello. Hi from Canadian Prairies. Hey. What's up to the hat? Canada is, like, the United States hat or whatever. Anyhoozle, we're going to do the thing we usually do, where we kind of chill and vibe for the first little while in the show before we start talking about any serious topics. But, so we have, Louisiana, governor signed a bill making Louisiana the first state to classify abortion-inducing medications as controlled substances. I also do have an article about how a comprehensive review has found that masking does reduce the spread of infectious airborne diseases. There were some people who were kind of contesting that previously, because it's kind of hard to do studies on this when, you're not like following each person all day long, making sure that they're not doing something like, oh, well, you lowered your mask to take a drink, or you lowered your mask to eat. And also they were lumping in surgical masks with rated N95 respirators. And obviously, like, a surgical mask fits very loosely. So there's all this breathing around the edges that you're doing. So like, the previously available data was not high quality. So, we're seeing some new information coming out, but I don't know if we're going to really seriously talk about that today. We'll see. We'll find out. Hello, Mersh. Welcome in. Get a swimming cap. Yeah, that's true. I could get a swimming cap. Just costs money, like, more money. I just bought myself a back brace just to kind of help train my muscles and, like, open up my chest and everything. So, trying not to spend a huge amount of money. Keeping in mind that my partner and I are trying to save to move, like, 2,000 miles away. Like, next year. So, what's up, Jihario? Hello. I feel like I already said hi to Mersh, but hello anyway. Also, the FDA is accepting comment on a proposed rule banning shock therapy devices that are used on autistic people. So I want to cover that for sure and try to edit that and pump it out for tomorrow, because the comment period ends on Tuesday. But we want to make sure to get as many, supportive comments heard as possible. Like, hey, yes, you should, in fact, stop using electroshock devices on autistic people. Like, it's astounding that we haven't yet gotten to a place in our society where that just is already the rule. But that's where we are. So I've got some links open for that. Let's see. Kansas lawmaker charged with DUI. That's kind of just funny. Don't know if we're going to go in detail on it. And Also, a golf course has been seriously damaged over the winter, which is again more just funny. Like, look at this. Like this kind of drying up damage of, again, like these non-native shitty grasses, like this will put a stop to people using golf courses, apparently. Like, it's enough that people will stop. The tornado outbreak yesterday was insane. I knew that Kansas had a tornado watch, but was there actually... I haven't checked up into this. Let's see. What's the most recent news if I just type in tornado? Internet. Slow. Okay, so Texas. Tornadoes in Texas last night. Arkansas. I don't think there were any in Kansas, thankfully. Unfortunate that there were fatalities associated with these. At least 8 people, according to CNN. At least 8 people dead after tornado-spawning storms strike the central U.S. Memorial Day weekend. So, wow, at least 8 people, including several children. Striking central United States overnight. Severe storms caused power outages and forced residents to shelter in place. Memorial Day weekend. Wow. 5 fatalities reported in Cook County, Texas. 3 in one household. 2 children in the area reported missing, still unaccounted as of this morning. Someone else was killed in Benton County, Arkansas. In northeast Oklahoma, 2 people killed and at least 23 injured as a result of severe storms overnight. Dang. So yeah, this storm season has been crazy. I honestly cannot remember a time in living memory for me when there have been this many storms that are this severe. It seems like this is fairly out of the ordinary. Like, oh yeah, we had a tornado back in like 2011, and then we had a tornado back in like, I want to say 2019, something like that, here in Kansas. Kind of went through like the middle of Kansas, like straight through the middle. And yeah, this year has just been crazy though. It's like way more storm activity than I was. And like, it's not just that there's storms, but that the storms are so severe, excuse me. My town, which is on the Kansas-Oklahoma border, has rumors of a couple hit west of Anthony yesterday. Yeah, and honestly, like, when these storms happen overnight, I was watching some storm coverage and, like, storm chasers a couple weeks ago when there were all those tornadoes in Oklahoma, and honestly, it can be hard to even confirm that there is a tornado. Like, you have, a tornado watch is, like, the circumstances which could result in a tornado are there, and might even include some amount of rotational cloud formations, but a tornado warning is when the funnel has touched the ground. Like, that is definitionally what a tornado is. If you have a funnel cloud, okay, that's scary and potentially dangerous, but unless it touches the ground, it is by definition not a tornado. So, you know, if it's nighttime especially, there's high wind, there's rain, there's hail. It can be actually difficult to determine if there is a tornado, period. Like, and you might not even find out until afterwards when you see, okay, well, this particular kind of damage is what we see consistent with the tornado actually, touching the ground and all. I know a family of storm chasers. The dad is a meteorologist, etc. The chutzpah on those people, like, is crazy. Storms are definitely getting more extreme, right? Yeah, welcome to the website. Hello, Hyena. Hello. Climate change and its effects. Florida and the hurricanes there are getting nuts. Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm a huge fan of thunderstorms, generally speaking. And then, when they get severe, it's like, dang, this thing that I really like and appreciate is just, it's like actually scary and dangerous. And, you know, it's increasingly, we've got like, uh, you know, hurricanes, we've got increased tidal activity, we've got wildfires and flooding and just like, yeah. And all of this has been anticipated to happen since forever ago, you know? Like, not only did I grow up hearing about the effects of climate change in the 90s and, you know, early 2000s and what have you, but, you know, as early as like 1880, there have been people writing about, you know, oh, the advent of the Industrial Revolution, we're burning all this coal. These are the effects that it's having on the local environment. These are the long-term effects. Like, there have been people who are aware and like able to study this and who have been pointing out these things since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Two things I would not like to do: storm chasing and paranormal investigations, ghost hunting. I know you have a different set of beliefs, Mersh, and I'm not going to rag on you about it. Like, I think paranormal investigation and ghost hunting is fun conceptually because, like, going to creepy places is fun. And of course, I don't put any stock in the quote unquote evidence that people present, particularly when they get out their little instruments and they're like, ooh, I'm going to use this to track electromagnetic fields or whatever, you know, as though we are not literally like swimming in all kinds of electrical signals. We've got Wi-Fi, we've got radio. Like, if you wave one of those instruments close to a wall that has electrical wiring running through it, that's going to have like some kind of effect on the machine. So yeah, but storm chasing, oh man, that does not seem fun. I had one buzz my head out here one night and got no warning. I had to look up a few minutes later. Oh yeah, your area is under a tornado warning. Yeah, so the thing is that I think a lot of us, because tornado watch means there could be a tornado, but there isn't one yet. I know for me personally, like, I went to bed last night, even knowing that my area was under a tornado watch. And the thing is that I think, you know, as people who are from the Midwest, maybe we're a little bit lackadaisical about, like, you should treat it like there is a tornado if there is a tornado watch, effectively, to the extent that that's possible. You know, I live somewhere that has a tendency to not get hit by these things. So, you know, maybe I feel a little bit more permissive going to sleep. But yeah, that whole thing of like, yes, if there's a funnel cloud, that is a tornado watch. And if it touches the ground, now we're in a tornado warning. And the tornado itself doesn't tend to last very long. You know, but that, you know, that whole severe thunderstorm tornado watch aspect of it as well, there is still property damage and there are still fatalities and injuries under just a tornado watch or just a severe thunderstorm warning. So I think the messaging has, you know, maybe gotten a little bit watered down, but also that people from the Midwest just feel like this is so normal and that it's the normality bias, the normalcy bias kicks in when we go, oh yeah, well, a tornado never hits here. Like, oh yeah, we've had tornadoes in the area before, but they never come anywhere near my house, so I'm gonna go to sleep, you know? And you might be right 98% of the time, but, you know, that's how the normalcy bias will get you, is that just assumption that it's not gonna be so bad, or that like, oh, it'll affect someone else but not me. Yeah, a Midwest thing. You live in an area long enough, you get used to how uncommon they are hitting town. I feel like a lot of the time tornadoes don't go through towns. Like, they don't go through cities. Like, I have this idea in my head that most of the time they tend to touch down rural. Yeah, I definitely think that there could be more rapid responses. Like, okay, the tornado has touched the ground. Now, like, we need to make sure these tornado sirens are going off. Have you ever experienced a tornado close to you before? I think what year was it? Was it 2019? That one, I actually can't remember. They've never been like super duper close to me. You know, like I've lived in Kansas City my entire life, practically, and they tend to be, they're, you know, at least a few miles away. If not like, oh, you know, that's like, it would take me like 30 minutes to drive to where that is. People who live on the Gulf Coast experience this with hurricanes. Oh, you mean like the normalcy bias, where they're like, oh, yeah, I know that it's a tropical storm or a hurricane or whatever, but it's probably going to swing north of us. Or, yeah, that tendency to reduce the intent. Like, it just prevents you from having adequate preparations and adequately, like, moving. Like, you know, getting moving, evacuating, getting in your basement. I saw a post. It's kind of funny. You know, it's serious, but it's kind of funny. It was like, you should get some hot dogs, like just hot dogs out of the package and stuff them in your pockets so that when they bring out the search dogs, the dogs will go to you first. Like, damn. Kind of fucked up. But obviously I found it amusing. So, and I'm like, listen, it's not the worst idea. Worst case scenario, like you get like a 99-cent package of hot dogs, shove some of them in your pocket, and you know, worst case scenario, you've got wet pockets at the end of this situation. Like best case scenario, it does lead to you getting found faster. People choose to ride the storm out when evacuation notices are given. Yeah. So like even if is an evacuation warning, I've definitely heard of this, you know, people on the coasts who just don't leave. And part of that too is the unfortunate class issue. By the way, hit the like button, please. Appreciate you. It's free and it brings more people into the show. It's, you know, it's a privilege to have somewhere to go. Like, okay, you're going to evacuate. Do you have family in like the next state over? Or do you have the money to afford a hotel? Or do you have a car in the first place to go somewhere? You know, like, we don't really talk about it very much, but evacuation itself, like having the ability to evacuate, is predicated on a number of assumed privileges that many of us take for granted. Like, I own my car. I could drive somewhere. And, you know, maybe I don't have family in whatever place outside of the path of the tornado or whatever, but I could probably afford one night in a shitty motel. Not hitting the like button is a class issue. True. Also, with the pocket wieners, if you're pinned under something long enough that hunger becomes an issue, you've got a pocket snack. Yeah. I feel like I would want to pop them in the microwave and then put them in my pocket if I did plan on eating them later. Yeah, the order to evacuate goes out, and a lot of people are sitting here going, to where and how? You know, public transit shuts down in these situations. And this is also not even taking into consideration people who are, let's say you're old, you're elderly, and you have a hard time getting around. Like, you get around just well enough to live by yourself, or maybe you have a carer who visits you like twice a week, but you're like too old to drive. And, you know, what happens to those people? Those are the people who tend to get hurt. You know, it tends to be elderly people who don't have the support they need to get out of those situations. Hot dogs do come pre-cooked and are safe to eat straight out of the package. Okay, that's fair. I'm sussy wussy about hot dogs. I'm like, I would rather cook it in the microwave for a little bit longer than the package says to. Buy a big American truck so you can be comfortable living in your car when it inevitably happens. True. Marsh says, also the government may not legally let you return when the storm is over. Literally, you can be met by armed police and National Guard blocking your way. Additionally, somehow the looters are able to get to your house and clean it out before you return. Yeah. If we have functioning buses then how will we put more cars on the road? Thunkers. Oh, gosh. So yeah, shit's gonna just keep getting crazier. It's just gonna keep getting crazier. Whether you live in Tornado Alley, whether you live somewhere that floods frequently, whether you live in places that are affected by hurricanes, you know, wildfires, whatever the situation is, it's gonna continue getting crazy. So we need to start, like, we need to really get over this normalcy bias. We really need to move past it and start to shed that, because it's like the normal that we're used to is kind of gone. You know, the normal that I'm used to here in Kansas is that there are tornadoes every once in a while, and they tend to hit rural. We might get one tornado or one storm that produces tornadoes every 10 years or so, right? But now it's fucking the end of May, and like, hold on, let me see. How many confirmed tornadoes? Whoa. So far, okay, so 2024 has been the most active tornado season to date since 2017, with 859 tornadoes reported so far this year. The average number of tornadoes from January to May this year is 578. So, yeah, this is, you know, literally almost 900 confirmed tornadoes this year. I'm legally blind with mobility issues, live alone, can't afford to stay somewhere. I'm not even old, so I can at least climb and run. Otherwise, I'd be screwed in a natural disaster. Absolutely. The Future is Disabled is probably the best book I've read so far this year, and really appreciated examples it included of ways disabled people have built survival strategies with/for each other. Yeah, I mean, and it's like one of the messed up things in any kind of disaster preparation, and this includes fire alarm, like fire drills in public schools and active shooter drills in public schools and things like this, where disabled students, like, it's practically the official policy to not take the extra time to gather up a disabled student, you know? And it sucks that even in broader society, the rest of society, we also have this thing where disabled people are having to create networks of support and get in touch with people and, you know, make plans for how to get out of your house if XYZ happens and all that. You know, that our public, like the public health approach to natural disasters is basically like, we're gonna trip you so that the zombies catch you first. Let's replace tornadoes with torgadoes. Then they'll be more scared of them, maybe. Houston had skyscraper windows blown out last week. Those windows are incredibly difficult to blow out. And that's just the wind. Presumably. In my neck of the woods, it's ice storms, for which evacuation isn't usually advised, as the risk is worse if you're stuck out on the road when it hits. The advice tends to be more stay inside, hope the roof can hold the weight of all the heavy ice and snowfall. Jeez Louise. Yeah, I think that in that case, the shelter in place recommendations would probably be quite similar to if you're in a tornado situation. Like, you don't actually want to be in the bathroom for a tornado because, you know, there's a glass in there. It's basically the same as the reason why you don't want to be near a window. because the glass can break, and then you've got wind blowing around glass, the mirror or the windows, either way. So that can be quite dangerous. What you actually want to do is be somewhere in the center of the building, assuming you don't have a basement. I know some people have said, like, we don't usually have basements in our area because of the propensity for flooding. But if you have a basement, that's the place to go. If you don't have a basement, get on the ground floor, and you want to be somewhere central inside the building. You want to be away from the windows and the outside of the building. And you want to be under a door jamb, or ideally, if you have a place in the hallway or something where there's like several doors right next to each other, those door jambs are really structurally sound. So like if the roof collapses or if the walls are collapsing or something, like those structures where, the door frames is like basically the safest place that you can be. Tell them the tornadoes are trans and they'll have it figured out in a couple of weeks. True. They're going to ban tornadoes because they're trans. Toilet shrapnel. God. Oh, but anyway, now that we've done some PSAs about tornado safety and all this, I mean, are we getting to the end of flipping tornado season anyway? Like, when does tornado season end? Tornadoes happen at all times of the year, but peak during, quote, tornado season, when the United States sees the most tornadoes out of the year. In general, tornado season begins in March and lasts until June. There are areas in the southern plains, such as Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, which see more tornadoes from May to early June. So hopefully, we're kind of nearing the end of the most severe storm season. For ice storms, the place you want to go is the least drafty or easily heated room, and doing overall building maintenance during the warm months, not leaving a roof damaged, for example. The worst affected in ice storms are low-income renters and farm communities. That makes perfect sense to me. Because it's not just the ice can cause structural damage, but also the ice can cause your electricity to go out. And so you need to make sure that you can stay warm. And as well as you kind of, want to make sure you're avoiding the whole roof collapsing thing by making sure that those infrastructures are getting appropriate maintenance. But yeah, what are you going to do if you live in a rental? And the whole point for someone who owns a rental is to put as little money into the maintenance as possible and extract the highest amount of value from your tenants as possible. But anyway, this is all good information to have. These are all good things to pay attention to. Coffee is delicious. I'm on decaf, and it's super worth it to have the taste. If you're caffeine sensitive, I know decaf is like a crime to a lot of people, but listen, I can't do the heart palpitations. On a slightly more fun note, I haven't seen you all since Wednesday, so here's what's happened with me since Wednesday. We actually did the Hot Ones hot sauce lineup on Friday. My partner had been talking about it for a while, decided to buy the set of hot sauces. Season 24 just started, so it's like a new lineup of sauces. And it was kind of awesome, TBH. I don't know if any of you watch the show, but the first 5 sauces tend to be pretty easy for people, and then you get into 6, 7 range, and it starts to ramp up quite a bit. And then number 8 is the worst one. And then actually number 9 and 10 are not so bad. Truly, the only crime here is being mad at what other people are drinking. The correct way to drink something is the way that you like it. I love Hot Ones. I know! It's such a fun show. And I was kind of unsure if I was going to be able to get through the whole lineup, because I like spicy foods, but I am not like I don't do it often. So I don't have this tolerance built up to it. So, you know, I do love whenever I eat hot dogs, I put ketchup and pickled jalapeno slices on top of it. That's how I prefer my hot dogs. And I'll put some Cholula on like eggs, but that's barely, it's not really a hot sauce. It's more like a tangy sauce for the Cholula. But yeah, so I was kind of unsure. And I definitely did have a rough time. Like, I mostly was like scared for how my body was going to react. Because when I got my tattoo most recently, I had kind of a shock reaction, which was very unfun. And so I was like, I don't want to like have a reaction to any of this where I start to feel really ill or like pass out or anything, because, you know, sometimes your blood pressure can just drop and be unpredictable. But now that I've done it, and I did make it all the way through, and I did make it all the way through without milk or ice cream or anything. I did drink water, my lemon water that I always have with me at my desk. Da Bomb fucking sucks. If y'all watch Hot Ones and you're like, it can't be that bad. It's so bad. And then, you know, number 9 and number 10, while they have a larger, like, Scoville number, they're not as bad as Da Bomb. Da Bomb is so bad. Like, it tastes bad, and it's so hot. It's like if spiciness could stab your tongue. Like, it's so awful. And I took a really tiny bite of it, too. And then, honestly, I spat it out because I was like, I can't. I'm not going to put this on the back of my tongue. Yeah, but now that I've done it, I went all the way through the whole lineup. The last couple wings, I took like a bite and didn't clean the whole wing. But now I feel like, okay, first of all, I could probably start eating hot sauces more often because they are really, really, really good. You know, I think that a lot of the sauces that we got, they do just taste good, especially the milder ones. But I think if I were to sit down and do the whole lineup again, I would be much more likely to clean all of my wings, except maybe for Da Bomb. But I might take a good bite of Da Bomb. It's just not a pleasant experience, Da Bomb. Everything else about it, like, yes, they taste good and they're enjoyable. And, you know, a little bit hot. What's up, Snoogan? This reminds me of the Hell Ramen with levels at a local ramen shop. Apparently they start adding wasabi after a certain level. Wasabi is different to pepper spice because wasabi doesn't have capsaicin. It hits in the nose a little bit more. Yeah, that's always my question. Does it taste good or is it just heat? Every sauce except for Da Bomb tastes good to some degree. You know, it might not be that every single one of them is my favorite sauce. And, you know, obviously the last one with like the Pepper X, I don't know if y'all are familiar with like Smokin' Ed Curry. He's the guy who breeds all these crazy hot peppers. Pepper X is currently the Guinness World Record highest rated, like highest Scoville count pepper, right? It has a fruity taste up front, and then afterwards, for me, there's a pepperiness that I don't like the aftertaste of it. Like, I don't like the aftertaste. But, yeah, Da Bomb tastes awful. Don't like it. I don't like habanero peppers. And that's the main thing in there is habanero pepper distillate or whatever. But all the rest of them for season 24's hot sauces tasted pretty good. Pretty enjoyable. My favorite video on the internet is the toddler who tries wasabi and then just goes, help. Oh no. I feel like that's really mean. You know, if it's like you give the kid lemon and they try lemon, okay, that at least, you know, is only awful for the immediate moment. But yeah, I feel like giving a kid something hot before they're capable of understanding what you're about to give them, that just seems really mean. People are so mean to children. I also don't think that most of us in the US have had wasabi for real, because most of the wasabi that you get in the United States is just like horseradish that's been colored green. Like the actual wasabi root. Or it's not a root, it's a rhizome. Uh, it's not as easy to get a hold of in the US. Da bomb is just an offensively gross sauce. I agree. It's not a fun time. Wasabi tastes how I imagine taking a bite of that glowing green nuclear waste in cartoons would taste. I want to like it, but I can't. Yeah, I don't, like I said, like, yeah, it's horseradish most of the time in the US. So it's like, I don't even know how many of us can say we know what wasabi tastes like. Lots of wasabi and lots of olive oil is fake. I did not know that about olive oil. And I buy cheap fucking olive oil too, so it might not even be real olive oil. Dad gave me jars of salsa mixed with sour cream or cream cheese. I love... Okay, so I'll make myself a cheese quesadilla. Just a, you know, like one tortilla, put the cheese in the middle, fold it in half kind of thing. And then I'll take my regular salsa that I keep in the fridge, sour cream, mix that in a bowl, and then that's my dip. It's super duper good. Takes the spiciness down, if that's something you're worried about. But horseradish is all right, not gonna lie. I don't know that I've really tried horseradish. It's like a fermented product, right? Like, what is horseradish? I have a question. Excuse me. Yes, it's a condiment. I know that. It's a root vegetable. Okay, so it's not fermented. Not fermented? Horseradish, vinegar. Pires claims that wasabi is better than horseradish. Bug says, Bug is a great name. I love wasabi so much. When I stopped going to play parties because pandemic, getting punched in the face by a metric fuck ton of wasabi was, when I was too understimulated to function, was kind of a lifesaver. Horseradish gets in your nose more. Just all up in the nose. Oh, God. I don't think I ate enough before stream. I did eat before stream, but I don't think I ate enough. So we might not want to focus up on food too much, because I will leave you in order to go eat if I get too hungry. We gotta talk about the news, okay? We gotta get into it. The kimchi hot sauce was pretty good. More, like, better than I thought it was gonna be, because I've never had kimchi before. That is a fermented product. Get rid of some of these links. Yawn. I think you'd love kimchi. Okay. I think I have some in my fridge, but it's been in there for like a year, so I don't know if it's any good at this point. Olive oil is often a mixture of oils and not strictly pure, or it is mixed with artificial aromas and colors to make it seem more authentic. There's a weird amount of fraud and crime surrounding it, right? I mean, it kind of makes sense because olive oil, like, properly would be very, very, very expensive. Like, because, you know, you're working with these tiny little olives and you're pressing them and getting all of the oil out of it. And of course, every agricultural product right now is going to be facing climate change related difficulties. So there's going to be lower yields, there's going to be crop failure. So, you know, everything is going to continue to get more and more expensive as farmers have to use more and more resources in order to try to maintain the same agricultural output, which they might not be able to maintain anyway. Kimchi rather similar to pickles. Good to know. What do you do with kimchi? Do you put it on stuff? Is it a side? Do you just eat it straight up, like as a side dish? There is also a maple syrup mafia based out of Canada. Ooh, Nomadic says I'm about to have a tater tot burrito with Chipotle hot sauce. I will say, the Los Calientes barbacoa hot sauce is probably my favorite of the hot sauces that we just ate. It's got like this, it's got the Chipotle smoky flavor. Delicious. Eric says, avocado is another one surrounded by crime. Drugs are making less profit nowadays, so the cartels have started taking over the avocado trade. Kimchi's a side dish usually. Okay. Good lord, it is warm, but I don't want to take off my hoodie. You can eat it straight, on the side, in things like it's a good soup additive. Sleeper favorite of mine is on burgers like you would a pickle. That does seem yummy. Like a pickled fermented product. That's not just pickled cucumbers. Mmm. Oh gosh. So those are the kind of fun things that I've been doing this week. Just, you know, working, dealing with my stupid fucking brain, you know, that's a fun thing that's happening too. It's easier now. Like, I think I've passed a threshold with my brain stupidity. I'm hoping it chills out a bit. Ugh. I'm gonna get back into playing Hades, because Hades 2 is out, and people want to talk to me about it, but I haven't even beaten Hades in the first place. So, apparently I need to play it a lot more and try to beat it in order to be able to have conversations about Hades 2, and eventually play Hades 2 maybe. I've just never been really good at roguelikes. I'm not good at video games in general. There is actually a cartel in Quebec that controls the maple trade internationally, and it is a whole thing. Canadian government also has a maple reserve because it's so high value. There was a big heist once? Oh, wow. Currently removing all the little hairs that got washed into my laundry after a haircut. Mm-hmm. Keeping it smooth on the sides. Keeping it smooth so that I can stay cool in the summer. And then simultaneously growing out the back of my hair. It's taking forever, though. I'm like, why is it taking so long to grow out? The Maple Mafia is by far one of the more amusing but serious crime organizations Canada has. Shit, wherever there's money, there's gonna be some kind of crime syndicate that develops around it. It's too funny, though. The Maple Mafia. And it's even funnier because you think of Canadians as being, you know, chill people. Of course, crime exists everywhere, but it's just funny, the idea that there's, like, organized crime being perpetrated by Canadians revolving around maple syrup, of all things. Wings keep getting caught. Ooh, and also, another fun thing that I've got going on right now is I'm working on my character sheet for D&D. It turns out that this shit is pretty complicated, though. So I'm doing my best, but I feel like not super confident that I'm gonna do it correctly. My DM was like, yeah, you could fill out one of these, like, basically PDF character sheet forms, but I prefer something like a Google Doc. But then the Google Doc they sent me of one of their previous character sheets just, like, doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I'm like, I was literally asking ChatGPT questions of, like, how do I do this? Like, you know, are there a certain set of spells that I am given, or, like, at what point can I, like, start choosing between? So we're trying to figure it out. But so the D&D campaign is, we're following 5e rules, but it's in the backdrop of, like, a Stardew Valley situation. And so my character is going to be a Circle of Spores druid who's human. So I'm kind of establishing, like, okay, I rolled his stats, so I've got his stats. And now I'm trying to figure out, okay, like, what spells am I going to start with? D&D Beyond is pretty decent for building a character, but you gotta have access to the sources. Yeah. I'm sure I'll figure it out. I just want to feel like I just want to feel like I'm prepared when we go sit down for our session 1. Because I basically did my session 0 yesterday, where I kind of finalized the details of my character as far as their backstory with my DM. And then we're having our first game, like, in a week or two. Like, the first week of June. So, I'm excited, because we've been talking about it since, like, April or March. It's been a long time. How does one get into D&D? It sounds cool, but also overwhelming AF. I mean, my friend just posted on Facebook, like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a Stardew Valley-themed D&D campaign. And I was like, that sounds like fun. I would like to get in on that. And there's actually 7 people in the party. The DM isn't helping me. They sent me a ton of resources. They're just not, like, walking me through it, you know? They were like, here's an example character sheet. Here's, like, 5 websites that are going to have all the information you need to set up. But it's like, I think that maybe they just don't realize how confusing it is to someone who has never played D&D before. We're starting at level 1. Like, we're starting at the basics. So, yeah, I guess level 1, you haven't specialized in your class yet. You just kind of have whatever. Like, the beginning couple of spells. Like, there's stuff, you know, like, that's what session 0 is for. But yeah, like, sure. I'm not getting as much hands-on help. I could message them and be like, hey, can you more thoroughly explain this? But I also, like, you know, don't want to take up a huge amount of their time. And when they have 7 people in the party, so there's 6 other people. And they told me, like, yeah, so here's kind of the stuff that you can use to fill out the character sheet. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm just trying not to be too needy with this whole thing. So I'm, like, asking ChatGPT. Typically, I just spectate my friends' D&D. I get to chill with friends and have a laugh, but don't have the stress of maintaining a character. I mean, I'm excited. Starting level 1 can be rough, but by level 3, you should feel comfy and solid with your character. Yeah. Like, I could have asked more questions, I'm sure, during our session 0, but I just didn't, I guess I didn't know what to ask. Stuff like, oh, how do you figure out your HP? Or, like, how do you figure out your stat modifier? Like, okay, I've kind of figured that shit out now. I rolled my stats, and then because my guy is human, he gets a +1 to all base stats. And then based on what the stat number is, there's, like, the modifier is going to be based on what your number is off of the primary, whatever. And then, like, yeah, your HP is determined by your class plus your constitution modifier. I don't know, man. Like, I'm throwing myself in the deep end here. But I'm sure, yeah, by level 3, I'm going to feel like I know what the fuck's going on. And I'm not going to feel bad about asking clarifying questions once we really get into it. But, so yeah, he's, you know, he's a level 1 Spores Druid. At level 1, you are purely at the mercy of the dice, more so than later on. Where are my dice? Oh yeah, here they are. I have a nice set of purple dice. This is my main set of dice. Like purple. They're just kind of cheap dice. They're not too fancy. And then I also have a teeny tiny D20, if I should so choose. And then also, a long time ago, my partner got me this D20 with a bunch of trans flags in it. Might be kind of hard to see because of how bright the light is, but trans flags. So, those are the dice that I'm working with. Get back in the bag. Okay. So, you know. It's gonna be good. And, like, yeah, I still have at least a week to finish figuring out exactly what his stats are gonna be and everything. What is a cantrip? I think it's a spell that you can use and it doesn't take a spell slot. I don't know. Figuring things out. Kitty Tick, hello! Early D&D is super fun sometimes. I've only participated lightly in several campaigns, but have always loved the D&D community. Yeah. This group has a lot of queer people in it. So I'm assuming that I think I might be the oldest person in the group, which is weird. Like I am 30 and I think I'm the oldest person in this group. The second to oldest person is only like a year or two younger than me, but it's just kind of silly. It feels a little bit silly to be like, oh yeah, I'm about to like basically hang out twice a month with a bunch of early 20s people. I'm old now. I'm so old. People assume I'm in my early 20s though, so maybe I'll fit in just fine. We'll see. Yeah, I think I should have asked more questions. Me and the wifey are here, just tired. Baby has decided to definitively be diurnal, so no real sleep for us till 2 to 3 months old. I thought diurnal means awake during the daytime. So baby is awake during the daytime. Don't be 34 years old and taking care of a newborn. That's all I can say. Early 20-somethings people are exhausting. Yeah. And there's one person in the group who I can already tell I dislike them, and that's just from the text exchanges that we've had. So, yeah. Oh, baby is nocturnal. Awake at nighttime. Okay, see, it's clear that you've not been getting any sleep. I'm sorry. That doesn't sound like an easy time. Parenthood is hard. It turns out, you know, that thing that people have been saying all my life about how being a parent is very difficult, it turns out it's true. Yeah, we are exceptionally tired. I am sorry to hear that. And it's, like, difficult to rewire yourself to being awake at night. Even if, you know, baby wants to be awake at night, you're still like, I am trying to sleep now. At age 27, constantly I'm being assumed to be 18 or too young to go into bars. But then all my friends are 30 plus. Yeah. So you are the youngster in the group, huh? Super sag. Yeah, hopefully it chills out after a little while. Like, they tend to be a little bit fussy for the first few months, and then a lot of people say, like, once they get closer to, like, the 3 to 6 month mark, they start sleeping at night a little bit better. I have a teenager to pick up soon from an event, so I get to miss part of midday nap. Sag! Oh, man. There's been a couple times recently where I've taken a little not super voluntary nap. It's like, I'm gonna go lay down because I feel like shite. But honestly, it's getting better now because for a while I was having a lot of dreams that were very stressful. And now I'm having dreams that there's still a lot of stuff going on, but I'm not feeling like as freaked out by them. So I think that means I'm sleeping better. Nomadic says my second child cluster fed all night every night. Ugh. Hales King says there are benefits. Okay, yeah, there are benefits to being perceived as younger. A mechanic once didn't charge me for the diagnostic fee since I had gotten some bad news on my catalytic converter. He was like, what, you're like 20, 21 years old? Parentheses, I'm 30. But I think he took pity on me thinking I was some kid. I'll take it. Listen, I will absolutely accept that charity. Yeah, hopefully closer to like 2 months for baby to start figuring out how to sleep at night. Like, I don't know. How do you just have to like try to make sure they stay awake during the day? I have no idea how this works. I think that babies are like dictators who are completely inflexible and just force you to do whatever they want you to do. Like, even if you tried to keep baby awake during the day, like, okay, well, that's when baby's trying to sleep. So, is baby gonna even grow properly if you're like not taking them naps? Ugh. This one is also cluster feeding. Oh, God. Ah. I obviously, as someone who was born with a uterus, I have considered on many separate occasions, like how this would go. Um, but like so many things about it seem truly terrible. I don't function well when I don't sleep. Um, and like, it consumes so many of your body's resources. Like, I think parenthood is really rewarding. And I think that I'm pretty good at those kind of things. But, yeah, I don't know if like gestating a human in my own body is a wise choice. But, like the population of the world is going to start dropping here pretty soon, so maybe it might be a good idea. I don't know. Have you ever hung out with a tired baby? They are not fun. Yeah. um have I ever hung out with a tired baby? I've hung out with a tired toddler. They're also not very fun. Always wanted to adopt. You get to skip the first 2 years of crying. Yeah, adoption has its own difficulties, although, I can see why people go that direction. You know, you kind of have to assume with adoption that that kid has been through some of the worst shit that any person could go through in order for you to just be prepared for all the potential issues that they could have coming into your home. Um, I feel like if you genetically create a child, then it's going to at least have some things in common with you by default, like certain tastes and certain personality things. And like adopting a kid can be kind of more unpredictable in this way. Also, being real, babies are boring until ages 2 to 3. That's when they start to get personality. Fair enough. Tired babies are only fun when they fall asleep eating ice cream and get it on their face. Messy, sticky babies. There's that weird baby smell that they kind of have all the time. And then toddlers have a toddler smell, like peanut butter and Where's My Mom? Adoption certainly is not sunshine and rainbows all the time. It's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Twitter is a fun place today. There's all kinds of fun stuff happening on Twitter right now. Unfortunately, my kids inherited too much of my traits. Excuse me. Mersh says, a psychiatrist once told me to adopt children before the age of 4. If you get them after that age, their core personality has formed and your influence in their upbringing is pretty significantly limited. Honestly, that makes sense. If you get one that's like 2 or 3 years old, you still have the opportunity to like kind of form their personality. That's what I'm saying, Captain Vaughn. Like, adoption is great. It can be a really nice thing to do. But yes, you would need to make sure you're equipped for taking care of a child that is potentially very traumatized. Yeah. Like, if I adopted a kid, even if you adopt a kid that's like 3 years old, you don't know the situation that they came from necessarily. They're not old enough to communicate. So if they had been abused in a particular way, you might not know, but they might have, all of the associated traumas surrounding it. Like, you just have to basically be prepared for them to have the most fucked up issues that a person can have. Also, the foster system itself puts children through abuse. Exactly. Like, those kids are going to have serious abandonment issues from being bounced around from home to home. Eric says, I specifically want to foster or adopt older kids and teens, but it's because of working in the shelter system with the kids that CPS gives up even tracking down after running away. I've thought about that too, because I'm a queer adult and there are queer and trans kids who get kicked out of their homes, and giving those kids a stable place to be, obviously that appeals to me a lot. But by the time you're getting to teenage age, those kids are not only dealing with trauma, but they are also capable of being pretty destructive. Those are the ones who, like, they might be sneaking out. They might, like, act out and, like, break shit or try to hit you or your other kids, like, again, you're dealing with kids who, it's not their fault that they are the way that they are, but, like, are you prepared to deal with a kid who might lash out violently, or with a kid who, refuses to do what you've asked them to do because you're not my real mom? You know what I mean? There are so many difficult things. I think people expect fostering and adopting older kids to be like, oh, you can just love them and they will heal, not understanding that love can't undo what these kids faced. They deserve stability even if they hate you. Yeah, you're gonna have to put that kid in therapy, and you're gonna have to be able to manage your emotions very, very well in order to not inadvertently worsen the issues that they're dealing with, right? I was a group home kid? Yeah. Lots of us be coming from unstable backgrounds. I think that that's, like, a good position to take, Jihariel. My fiance really wants to raise a child. We have talked about adoption, but I've honestly concluded that I'm not going to be able to raise a child. That just isn't in the cards for me. I think if more people were able to reconcile and go, listen, I love the idea of having a kid, but I have all my issues, and, like, am I going to be able to really be there for this kid? Am I going to be able to step up emotionally? Am I going to be able, not even just financially, like, obviously being able to afford having a teenager and, making sure that they get a good Christmas and they get a good birthday, but, like, and being able to afford their therapy, but just being able to be emotionally there and able to handle, the unpredictable things that can happen, whether it's you having your own baby or whether it's you adopting. So many people, I think, just take for granted that having a kid is a thing that you're supposed to do. And then, they're not realizing, oh, I am not equipped to do this. But once you have the kid, like, there's no Uno reverse. Like, you cannot return them. You cannot return them to the store for a refund or whatever. Like, there's probably a lot of dysfunction that would not be present if more people really took the time to deal with their own issues, face themselves, and go, look, if I'm having all this difficulty taking care of myself, I'm slimming down on how many plants I own, not only because I'm moving and I'll be moving during the winter and I don't want to, like, have a bunch of my plants die, but also because I am not doing a good job of taking care of the ones that I have right now. So if I slim down the number of plants that I have, I'm hoping I'll be able to take care of them better. But, like, you can't do that with a kid. If you have a kid and then realize that you're not equipped, that's just, it's not fair to the kid. They don't have a choice about the situation that they're in. Yeah, excuse me, is this baby still under warranty? It seems to have developed an issue. Let me take this back to the hospital. Hales also says that it's really important to note when you have adopted a kid that you shouldn't let them know that they were adopted. It's a terrible thing to hide from a kid and then, like, surprise them with it later. Yeah, why would you do that? Max, hello! I also just wanted to let you know, Max, that, and anybody else, if you have a subscription to the website and you have the cute colored name in the website chat, make sure that your Discord account is attached to it if you want to have the fun colored name in the Discord as well. Just wanted to bring that up because I know some of you have subs in the website chat, and then I know that you don't have the colored name in Discord, and that's something that the website handles automatically if you have the accounts connected to each other. I think lying to kids is bad no matter what. Yeah, I typically think that that's the case. I did participate in the whole Christmas thing for my nephew. Like, I would be having a conversation with his mom about Christmas, and I would not know if he was in the room, but I would still be talking about, like, oh, Santa this, Santa that, because I just, that was her prerogative, and I understood her reasons were like, I just want him to still feel like the world is magical. I probably wouldn't do that with my own children if I had young kids, but yeah, no worries, Max. I just wanted to make sure that you had them connected if you wanted to have them connected. One of my friends was adopted and knew it from the very start, but her parents would also mention the price tag that came along with it, which is more than a little fucked up. No kidding. It is like you're buying a child, kind of. And that's where I do think the whole industry of adoption is pretty problematic, because you're paying for a child, and that means that there's a market, and people prefer to adopt babies, so there is a market for purchasing babies. And we don't, people probably don't want to frame it that way because it's really fucking uncomfortable, but wow, my husband's girlfriend found out she was adopted at 55 years old when her bio mom died. Oh man, that's terrible. Yeah, legalized human trafficking. Yeah. There has to be some kind of situation where I meant dad's girlfriend, not husband's. I assumed you meant like an ex-girlfriend. My dad's girlfriend. See, this is what parenthood does to you. Oh, geez. And it's kind of late at night for you too. The European hours. As a broke parent, it sucks sometimes. I'm lucky I live in a state that provides relatively a lot of support to parents. Yeah. Wow, my brother-in-law has sold multiple kids? Really? Like by way of adoption fees? Even in the foster care home group industry, there's like a financial incentive. Corpse Candy says, I was supposed to be in care for 6 months and ended up in a Crown ward and in group homes from age 7 to 18. It's because we make them money. I've heard that. I've heard of people in the United States, basically, they receive a stipend, I guess you could call it, like a monthly allowance for each foster kid that they have. And I've heard of situations where those parents are basically pocketing all of that money and like not adequately, like you're supposed to take this money that the government is giving you and use it to buy food and clothes and whatever for the kids. But they end up, I mean, it's literally like a Futurama episode where Bender is doing that, where he's got like, oh, I've got all these foster kids because I want the money each month. My dad's GF only found out because her bio mom left her a letter after she passed. Wow. I didn't want to have a kid until I met someone I actually wanted to build a life with and didn't feel miserable with. I don't want to have a kid without us both being on full-time income, though, so I'm working towards making a good amount of money before we do anything else. I mean, this is like one of the main reasons why people in our age range are not having children, is like because we can't afford them. not only are we more self-aware than our parents' generation was with regards to, you know, how are we able to take care of ourselves? How are we going to be able to show up for our kids? But yeah, a lot of people are like, I want to own a house because, you know, I moved around a lot with my parents. Or like, yeah, you have an annual lease situation and then you move once per year, which means you also end up moving schools, which means you don't have a consistent friend group. You're always the new kid at the school and everything. Like, yeah, there are people our age who are like, I want to get to a certain level of financial stability before having a kid. And then, you know, before you know it, you're in your 30s and you're still struggling to get that financial security. And if you have your first pregnancy in your 30s, there are increased risks for both you and the baby. So there's really like no winning. Yeah, as a group home kid, I got the bare minimum for clothes and very crappy processed food, and they kept the rest of the money. A for-profit foster home. What a terrible combination of words. Kids just kind of happened for me. We had birth control, but it failed twice. I mean, yeah, that's a struggle as well on its own. That it's a thing that can happen to you accidentally. And you might not be able to afford termination, but like the kid itself is going to be way more expensive, but it's still hard to like get the money for a termination all at once. Water. So good for you. Oh gosh. Captain Vaughn says, my mom urged me to use pill plus condom combo. Yeah, my parents also urged me to use 2 methods of birth control. And for a long time, that was the case. But I've been, like, monogamously married for forever, so the barrier thing, you know, isn't as big of a priority. Quite happy to be snipped. No more kids than the ones I already have. No accidents. True, truly. Having kids is easier than ordering a pizza. Don't believe me? Have you ever ordered a pizza on accident? Oh, jeez. I've seen comments on a child-free YouTube video where child-free people were saying, child-free people were being told, it's never a good time to have a child. You'll figure it out. People need to not get in other people's life choices. Yeah, it's like not only are the parents going to be struggling and, you know, unable to meet their dreams and like meet their own needs and all, but like, yeah, you are creating a human life and then putting it in a situation. Yes, I've accidentally ordered a pizza while drunk. That's funny. But yeah, like you're bringing a new human person into the world. It's not like something you should treat flippantly. I was also raised with the mindset of it doesn't matter if she's on the pill or not, wrap it up. If you miss the pill one day and you had sex 2 days ago, she could get pregnant off of the sex that you had 2 days ago, you know? Like, it is risky. And like, honestly, it's kind of exhausting, like, as a person who can get pregnant, that it's something that you stress about a lot. And like, oh, this birth control is giving me like side effects that I don't like, so I have to transfer birth controls and all this shit. And like, I tried to get an IUD and now I have fucking PTSD, you know? Like, there's not really, like, there's just, it's like a hypervigilance thing. And it's not just hypervigilance, like, it's hypervigilance about something that could A, ruin your life, and B, kill you. You know? Like, I wouldn't want to get pregnant unless I was totally sure that whatever, like, I know for sure that I have access to good health care. Like I have good insurance. I have a good doctor. Like I'm not going to catch COVID in the hospital. You know, like there are so many different things because you could just die. Just die. And I have connective tissue problems, so like that increases the chance of certain complications. So it's not just like, oh, this would complicate our relationship or it would be expensive or, you know, whatever. Like there's a physical safety aspect of it as well. Max says, coming from a person with 2 kids, says, I do also think that becoming a parent isn't something you can ever really be ready for. It is such a humongous thing and a big change in your life that if you're waiting to magically feel perfectly prepared, you're not ever going to bother doing it. Sure, yeah. But there's like a middle ground between, you know, like, oh, it's never going to feel like the right time, so you should just do it. Versus like, yeah, you do want to be at least relatively emotionally stable and like relatively financially stable. And to some extent, yeah, you'll make it work, but it's about making sure that you're not putting a kid through something that they didn't need to go through if you could have taken an extra 2 years to get to a place in your career where you have more paid time off or better insurance or whatever. A really big reason I most likely won't have a baby is that I don't know how to ethically bring a baby into our current COVID hellscape. IDK, that even feels possible. Yeah, like, am I gonna catch COVID while I'm pregnant and going to medical stuff? Or like, how am I gonna make sure that that kid is properly socialized if I want to make sure that they are not catching an illness that can permanently prevent them from ever being able to do things later on in their lives? You know? Is it right for me to basically homeschool a kid and keep them home all the time? Like, how are you going to navigate making sure that that kid gets the proper stimulation that they need and everything while also not risking their health and safety? Oh yeah, of course, dysphoria and tocophobia notwithstanding. I think that having a pregnancy would make me want to throw up every day of my life just because of the dysphoria. Um, but I don't know. That's a guess. I figured COVID would be more under control by my mid to late 20s. It's like, yeah. Ugh. The COVID of it all. If you're just coming in, hit the like button, even if you're not going to stick around. We're having a conversation about foster and adoption and parenthood and everything. So just hit the like button before you leave if you don't want to chill for this. But yeah, with COVID and everything, you know, we're in the 5th year of this now, right? Like 2020 is when the first round of like lockdowns and stuff happened. So yeah, we're in 2024. We have now entered the 5th year, right? Hold on. 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, so 24. We're entering the 5th year. And it seems like it's not going anywhere. And also, I don't think it's becoming less disabling. It might be less overtly deadly, but it depends on the version of it, right? And the Bridge Access Program, which gives people vaccines for free, is going to end later this year. It's actually going to end later this year before the next booster is released in September. So, like, even keeping yourself vaccinated with the whole vax and relax strategy is going to be very difficult for people. Duke says, being a parent is the most punishing blessing in the world. It's worth it for its own sake, but it is very hard. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I understand why someone else would not want to. I appreciate that perspective because so many parents are like, oh my God, you'll love it. Everybody should have a kid. You know, oh, you're never going to know what real love is until you look into the eyes of your firstborn child or whatever. It's like really creepy, honestly, to me. I count 4 years, not 5, but it feels way longer. What I'm saying is, okay, all of the year 2020, all of the year 21, all of the year 22, all of the year 23. Now we're starting the year 24, right? So we've had 4 years. We are in the 5th year of COVID. So, one of the things that we discuss when it comes to viruses and like viral survivability and severeness is we look at what is the 5-year survival rate. If you caught it once in 2020, what is the likelihood that you will live or not be permanently disabled within that first 5 years? So we are just now getting to what is considered like a milestone of like, after this 5th year that we are in the process of right now, we will start to understand like what is the 5-year survivability of this illness. I think, because we're looking at, okay, if you had a confirmed infection in 2020, maybe you didn't die from the acute infection, but you did die of a heart attack a year later, and you otherwise didn't have any risk factors for heart attack. Like, okay, now we're going to start to be able to see what is the 5-year survivability on this. My opinion on this has been for a while, and I don't know how, I'm not an epidemiologist, but a lot of other diseases peter out after 5 years. Like they kill everybody that they're going to kill after that 5-year period. But because there are so many different strains of COVID and it evolves so rapidly and all this, I feel like when we get to the 10-year mark, it will have basically killed who it's going to kill and disable who it's going to disable. But I don't think that we have this type of virus to reflect back on. Like, with the Spanish influenza, we ended up, it was like deadly, but it wasn't mutating and it wasn't the kind of thing you could like catch 5 times a year. So we'll see. Raising a child is very financially challenging. Educating a child properly is not cheap if done right. Homeschool, private school, or even public school is expensive. Trade school or college is expensive. That's not taking into account, like, medical care, etc. Yeah, and like, I would not feel like I could send my kid to a public school in good conscience, or a private school. I would homeschool my kid. And homeschooling is fucking hard. It takes a ton of effort, and your kid has to be a relatively self-starting individual. And like, that's assuming that they don't have a learning disability. That's assuming that they don't have ADHD. Oh no. Nomadic says, I went from being perfectly happy to having daily existential crises because ever since I learned I was going to be having a kid. But their faces give me feelings, damn it. Yeah, the dichotomy. The dichotomy is crazy. Yeah, even more financially challenging if your kid has a disability of any kind. Ugh. And it's tough, like, the whole adoption thing is tough too because, once a kid is older, they don't necessarily have the kind of fundamental attributes that you would have given a kid when they were younger, Like, if you weren't around the first couple times they scraped their knees in order to tell them, like, look, you skinned your knee, but you're not even bleeding, okay? Get back out there and play. Like, of course you want to balance like I understand that really stings, but you're not hurt, right? So like, I'll give you a little hug, kiss your boo-boo, but then get your ass out there and go play again, like you weren't there for all of those kind of moments of helping them build, first of all, knowing that they can come to you for help, and then also helping them build resilience. And you can't like rewire those things, really. Trying to give a traumatized kid confidence does not seem like an easy task. The love and admiration of my children does hit different, but as does their anger and disappointment. No. Oh gosh. If your kid is angry and disappointed with you, Or if you like, yeah, if you snap at your kid and you're like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm not being my best self right now. Like having to apologize to a kid and go like, I'm sorry, I could have done that better. It's tricky. It's very tricky. Oh gosh. It's funny how we've been talking about kids for this entire thing and like, for the last half hour or whatever, and it's not even related to the topic, but it is semi-related to the topic where we're going to be discussing how Louisiana made abortion pills a controlled substance. So we're going to read an article about that. I've got an article from Reuters pulled up here. Whoa. This is kind of an old 2010. Okay. Just pulling up some information about Louisiana so that we can talk about that in a little bit here. Welcome in if you've just come in. We're getting ready to shift out of the part of the show where we talk about nonsense and shift into the part of the show where we talk about the serious topics. Making sure I got my links all in order here. Oh, geez. Okay, I guess I've got like three main topics for us to go into today. Parenthood equals never serious, always silly. Only making faces, only playing peekaboo. Yeah, absolutely, Charlotte. For sure. Really dislike the narrative of, oh, COVID is over, guys. It only kills disabled people now. Yeah, not only is that eugenics of like, oh, yeah, it's okay if we let disabled people die and old people, but also like, if you catch COVID, there's a good chance that you have a disability now, whether you know about it or not. So, like, gradually, the situation is going to be like, oh, don't worry, it only could kill everyone at any moment, which was like already the case anyway. Thank you, Riffs. Just popping in to hit the like button. Do it. Do it, do it. Ooh, we're so close to 69 likes. Delicious. This conversation made me feel a lot of things about my adequacy as a parent. Listen, we're all trying the best with what we've got. You know, parenthood happens to a lot of us, and like we find ourselves having to step up to this responsibility that we weren't expecting to have to do, and like it changes how you can live your life for a while. And you know, you just gotta fucking keep going. Just gotta keep doing the shit. It's not like you can just be like, oh well, never mind, I've decided not to do this anymore. You can't like adopt a kid and then give it back without expecting to like seriously damage the child. So you just gotta figure your shit out. And like again, yeah, you can't return your baby to the hospital. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and just flush this one. It's 2 years old, but I'm gonna go ahead and flush it. Ugh, my hair in my coffee. Yeah, herd immunity as a concept does not work when you can catch the same virus twice in 1 month because the variants are slightly different and it's like destroyed your immune function. Oh my god. Vax and relax. Let's just do herd immunity. Whatever. Oh my god. So the three stories we've got tonight, today, this afternoon, whatever time it is, are reading an article about the efficacy of masks, considering that the previous narrative on this has been like, oh, well, we can't, there's no scientific studies, we can't tell how good they are. And then the Louisiana abortion pills are controlled substances thing, and then banning shock therapy for autism. These are the topics for today. You sort of can return a kid. I got shifted around group homes a lot when they decided I was too challenging or whatever. Not quite that, but similar. I mean, like, you literally can, like, unadopt a kid, but you can't do that without inflicting damage on the kid, you know? We're at 66 likes. Next, after 69 and 100 and 500, of course, is 666. If I ever get big enough to have 666 likes on a stream, I will be unstoppable, okay? And also, I might only stream like once a week. 69. 69. Get some Ninja Sex Party references up in this bitch. It's 2024. Why are we still talking about electroshock for autism? Because it's not illegal. Like, we're trying, like, part of the discussion that we're gonna have is, like, trying to get it banned once and for all. Because the FDA apparently just now has the regulatory power to ban these devices. Some of the dumbest shit ever. Hey, look at, we're 69 now. Yes. Does anybody want to drop a $5 dono? Give us our first $5 dono for today. I'm in the middle of a bulk, so every time I get to flex on stream, you get to see my progress on my bulk. Oh, I don't have a premium on this account? Oh no. YouTube Premium is honestly amazing. It's so good. I like being able to listen to videos and turn off my screen. I like having a downloads folder for I can listen to music from YouTube, and yeah, obviously not having ads is good. And making sure that the creators you support are getting paid even when their ads are being restricted. That's one of the best things. Is like, even if I have been demonetized, which doesn't happen super often to me, but if I am demonetized, then everybody who has YouTube Premium, I still get paid for those views. So, it's good. Excuse me. I'm broke. I'm saving for my Pride tattoo this coming month. High five! Absolutely. I'm also getting my tattoo finished next month. So, yeah, I totally get it. I've been forcing myself to use YouTube Music on my phone because I have Premium and will not pay for another music service. I don't know how good music is. I don't know how good YouTube Music is. I don't really use it. I just use the regular downloads folder. Listen, I can't support y'all's use of ad block. I know it's like a boomer opinion or whatever. I can't support the use of ad block, you know, on YouTube at least. Like, watch the very few ads on my content, or just fucking buy YouTube Premium, you know? Like, it's not an insignificant portion of my income, the ad revenue. YouTube Music is not the greatest, not the best. It's got a tendency to play music videos instead of songs. That's annoying. And then it's got... You ever watch those music videos and you're just like, I'm trying to listen to this song, but it's got like 30 seconds of like talking or just people walking from place to place for the first 30 seconds? Like, geez Louise, guys. Dude, did anybody see Demon Mama's video about Keffals? there hadn't been an update in a while, and I'm not trying to do like a segment about it myself or anything, like, because a couple years ago, you might remember like Keffels, she was like a YouTube streamer slash Twitch streamer, and she like transitioned when she was a teenager, and she got swatted because Kiwi Farms had like doxed her, and so they sent cops and everything. And then she started a GoFundMe thing to raise money because, first of all, she needed to move on short notice because her address had been doxed and everything. And then she decided she was going to go ahead and sue the, what was it, the Ontario Police Department or whatever? Like, I can't remember. Somewhere in Canada. She was going to sue the police department and get like the Human Rights Tribunal involved. And people were wondering what the hell happened. You know, it's been 2 years. What happened to the money? In the meantime, Keffels also like went to rehab and like moved from Canada to Ireland and all this. And it turns out that she basically like lied. London, Ontario police. Okay, thank you. She like lied about the money. If I give you $5, will you support my personal use of AdBlock? Yeah, you're forgiven now. Officially, thank you, Self-Combusted, for the tier 1 sub. Officially, you're forgiven. Yeah, this Keffels drama is so disappointing. William Jack, thank you. $25 dono. Terribly sorry, but I'm going to continue to use AdBlock. Okay, listen, one $5 dono will probably cover it for at least a few months. So, I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you, guys. Oh, gosh. Number go up. Yeah, I'll forgive you. It's official. You're forgiven. Yes, the AdBlock pass. It's like the N-word pass. You're able to purchase an AdBlock pass. But yeah, I'm so grateful that Demon Mama put all the effort into this, because I had seen screenshots on Twitter that were alleging that Keffels had blown through all the money. Like, that $100,000 that she raised for an alleged legal case is just gone. Like, she bought new stream equipment, even though her stream equipment was returned to her 3 days after the swatting. And she bought herself new clothes, and she was using it to give money to her friends. Like, just... Oh, thank you. I'm whitelisted. Thank you. It was shocking to me, honestly. And, like, I appreciate that Mama checked things. She did her due diligence. You know, she wanted to make sure that all the claims that she was making were well substantiated. And it turns out, like, also Keffels doxes people for fun, apparently. She just she doxes people and then keeps their dox information on deck just because she wants to. So imagine being somebody who works for her and knows that she blew all the money and is like, how do you say something about that if you're afraid that your employer, we're talking about like paid editors on her staff, if you know that your employer has your docs information? Yeah, how do you blow $100,000? Let me start a GoFundMe and people can give me $100,000. Like, I'm gonna keep most of that for like a long time. I'm gonna go through it very slowly. I'm gonna pay for like getting my fucking teeth fixed and getting my partner's teeth fixed and like medical shit, you know? And like down payment on a house type thing. Like, I'm gonna have most of it for at least 3 years. Yeah, the doxing thing was unbelievable. After she herself got swatted, she's gonna go around paying investigators to collect docs. And she moved from Canada, where her rent was like $2,000 a month, to Ireland, where her rent is only $400 a month. And she's talking about how she's about to be able to save up to buy a house. And like, that's after people donated to her. Now listen, if she had just kept it like, this is an emergency fund for me to move and recoup my losses because I had to take a bunch of time off work and pay for therapy for a year to deal with my trauma from being swatted, people would have been okay with her like spending the money that way. because that's what the fund started as. It started as an emergency fund for her. And then it became, oh, I'm going to use this money for legal fees to go to the Human Rights Tribunal. Like, people would not be upset with her if she had not made those promises. Like, it was not necessary for her to make these promises. But I bet you that more people donated because she made those promises. That she was like, I'm going to turn this into an issue where I fight for justice for trans people in general. That's the part that makes me the most disappointed, that a lot of us are struggling. That kind of money is beyond life-changing. Right. And the GoFundMe was still online for the longest time. Like, I'm considering running a GoFundMe later this year to help afford, like, moving across the country and, like, you know, the first month's rent at the new place and, you know, the U-Haul and the gas for the U-Haul, traveling 2,000 miles with all of my shit, you know? And even then, I'm like, you know, for an emergency fund, like, let's just assume, like, let's call it the same thing. Keffels needs to move. I need to move. Let's just stick with that. I think I would not be able to ask for more than, like, $3,000 without me feeling like shit. Like, without me feeling like I'm taking away resources from trans people who need it more. And if I like, had money extra, or if we met that goal, like, generally speaking, when I run a GoFundMe, the past couple of times I've done it, I don't expand the goal after I hit the goal. Like, if I said, hey, I need $2,000 to help, you know, my partner's going to pay for a lot of it and I'm going to try to pay for a lot of the move. Like, I want $2,000. If I get to that $2,000, I generally close my GoFundMe after it's hit its goal. Like, I guess I could increase it. Like, oh yeah, if we hit, okay, we've hit $2,000. Let me expand it to $3,000 so that I can buy a new desk when I arrive, or a new bed when I arrive, or something, you know, like, because I'm not going to be able to take my desk. So frankly, maybe that is something that I should include in the cost of moving. Is I really, like, for my health, I probably need a hybrid desk that can stand and sit. But, like, this desk that I'm using now, it's only sturdy and stable because it is in one location. Like, if it got hit from the side wrong, it would, like, did you see this? See this? That's the desk. It moves a lot. It's not going to stand up to a cross-country move, probably. But I can't imagine. Like, even $10,000. That's too much money for y'all to give me to move. That's too much for me to ask for to move. And granted, I'm moving, like, within one country, whereas I'm assuming, you know, maybe Keffels had to replace her furniture because she moved to Ireland, and you probably can't take your couch from Canada to Ireland. Okay, cool. If I got a new couch, I would go to the fucking thrift store and get a cheap couch, you know? Like, I'm not gonna buy, like, a $3,000 couch. Exactly. Expanding the GoFundMe kind of did make sense when we thought it was for legal funds, since the costs would be ongoing. You know, she was saying a 3-day civil trial in Canada is like $60,000. Like, okay. But yeah, now knowing that it was complete bullshit, like, did she ever intend to do it? Was she lying the entire time? Or was it just like circumstances got away from her? She never even filed the complaint officially with the Human Rights Tribunal. She alleged that one of the police officers fondled her breast and, like, sexually assaulted her, but we don't have, like, there is no official complaint that she's filed. So anyway, that was like a 2-hour-long video from Demon Mama, and she goes into everything, you know, with much more detail and clarity, and she goes into it. Yeah. Previously, I was just kind of like, you know, Keffels is a person who's got a lot of drama going on, and she seems like she's struggling, you know? She's got this whole, like, drug addiction thing going on. She has some kind of disability, which is why she's a full-time streamer and not a person who's, like, working a job. And And like, obviously, I know that she's from a position of relative privilege because she has the support of her parents and they helped pay for her to get vaginoplasty when she was like 17 or whatever. Like, maybe she was 18. I don't know. But she was young. Like, she's quote unquote fully transitioned because she was able to do it young with that support. So she doesn't have the same burden that a lot of other trans people do, where they're like, I have to pay for my own surgery and all this. But like, yeah, to find out that she lied about all this and that she blew the money on all kinds of shit, ostensibly, like that she betrayed her community and a bunch of people who believed that she was going to try to do something to help trans people more broadly, to help make sure that swattings like this don't happen, that transphobic remarks don't get made during police interactions with trans people, you know, like that she went on the news and had her story platformed. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Those glue board furnishings are not worth $1,000. That stuff only stays together long enough for the moving truck from the furniture store to drop it off. Right? So, that's crazy. I guess I can see how I would blow through $100,000 if I did not give a shit about anyone or anything. Kind of makes it seem like she doesn't, right? It makes it seem like she doesn't care. And the fact that the way that she talks about this in private, and I've seen the screenshots, and Demon Mama corroborated that these screenshots are verifiable. That she's basically like, oh my God, you know, people would be so mad if they found out that I blew all the money, and like, oh, I would get canceled. And it's like, yeah, people are justifiably upset that you lied and you stole $100,000 worth of money from probably largely a lot of trans people who are already struggling. Yeah, and unfortunately it does give the phobes more ammo. I do feel like at least at this point, Keffels is not... She's not as public of a public figure now. Like, she's kind of fallen off. She did this pivot into drama content. She got into this huge beef with Xander Hall. And I'm not defending either of them. I completely don't know anything about it except that there was a beef. Like, at the very minimum, I don't think that a lot of transphobes are picking up on this and going, oh, look, this trans woman lied, therefore trans people are liars. More generally. Like, I guess there is a bit of a blessing in the fact that Keffels going to rehab hurt her channel. And she's kind of fallen off. Like, she has a lot less clout, I guess you could say. She's got a lot less name recognition and notoriety than she did 2 years ago. It's such a bummer. Like, just imagining what I would do. Like, yeah, again, assuming, like, yeah, it's just, let's say, her original goal of, like, $10,000. Like, what would I do with that? I've got some immediate problems that could be solved. I need to have wisdom teeth removed. And that's like $800 per tooth. So there we go. That's like almost $2,000. And I'd have to take time off work because I'm not going to be able to talk if I've got wisdom teeth removed. So, and that, yeah, that's like assuming that I don't have the moving fees, which I will. It's going to be... I can attest to being one of the poor trans girls who got swindled by her. Right. And you can file a complaint with GoFundMe, and I think that you probably should. If you file the complaint on GoFundMe and say, like, hey, this basically was fraudulent. I'm not exactly sure what recourse there is beyond that. Demon Mama did mention it during her show. I assume almost all her audience were queer like me. Yeah. Occasionally there's, like, a queer person with a lot of money who has the money to give. What is it with people in Vosh's periphery? They all seem unhinged. I guess I've never really thought of Keffels as being in Vosh's periphery, but I also don't really think about things that way anymore. Like, Vosh is Vosh, and we are all our separate creators. I do find that cis people who watch trans creators tend to not stay cis, so it was probably all trans people. Listen, don't shit talk Lord Byron, okay? And the other esteemed cisgenders in the chat, okay? Like, there probably were some cisgender people, and there probably were some really well-off trans people. But mostly, the kinds of like contributions that trans people get for GoFundMe's is from individuals who are passing around the same $20 bill. Yeah, in this instance, Vosh is the streamer. Are you calling Vosh a deity? What? Fair, but also sussy. Let them be allies, okay? Just let it happen. Just let the allies be allies. Oh, God. I'm just joking from my own experience. I was a fruit fly for a while. Still cis, though. Oh, jeez. I'm not being too serious about it either. Okay, so we're hitting that 2-hour mark. I'm gonna go empty my bladder, and then I'm gonna come back and we're gonna get into some of these topics. Like I said, we've got 3 topics. We're gonna look at a comprehensive review that found that masks do in fact reduce the spread of airborne illnesses. Duh. We're gonna look at Louisiana effectively trying to criminalize abortion pills, and oh, the creator. Yes, okay. I understand now. And then, yeah, banning shock therapy for autism. So those are our main stories tonight. We're going to get into them when I get back. Don't go anywhere. If you go anywhere, I will stab you in the face. That's not true. I will not. Hold on. Where's my knife? Yeah. That's all I'll do. I'll stab my camera in the face. And then buy a new one for $150. But yeah. If you need a break, take a break. Go to the bathroom, get yourself a drink. I'll be back in like 5 minutes, okay? All right. Enjoy the bugs. Okay, I'm back. Jump scare. Hello. We're ready to talk about the news. Ugh. Trying to get comfy. Get comfy. Scooch in, okay? Bring it in. Bring it in. Come on, get closer. Get closer. I honestly don't know or care if I'm cis. Just tend to support trans creators because A, they tend to be leftist, and B, they also tend to be nice people. There you go. Alright. What shall we start with? Strong opinions? Anybody? Mask efficacy? Abortion pills? Or autism? Shock therapy stuff. Any strong preference? Boo. So scary. So scary. 77 likes. Wow. Wow. No strong preferences? Alright. I'm gonna do whatever I want then. Ready? Tism? I was thinking of starting with Tism. Because, I'm gonna try to edit that video and get it up tomorrow morning. To try to make sure that we, I want to make sure that I can influence a couple more people to put their comments on this website, so... Oh my god, my throat. Okay. We have been talking about conversion therapy a bit here on the channel because, I mean, mostly because I'm trans and we talk about queer and trans conversion therapy stuff and how, you know, even the whole watch and wait thing is a means of kind of hoping that trans people, you know, if you don't provide them with medical care when they ask for it at age 14 or whatever, part of the hope, whether they say it or not, part of the hope behind making those kids wait is that there's an idea that they will just kind of grow out of it. It's a way of like subtly pressuring them to deconvert from being trans, right? And then, you know, there's also more serious forms of conversion therapy, and we've talked about how a very, very, very high number of people who go through conversion therapy end up committing, you know, unalive, or they end up doing self-harm. You know, most of them have some kind of attempt like that. And what's something we don't necessarily talk about as much is autistic conversion therapy. Like ABA, I believe is what, I can't remember what it's short for, but ABA therapy is a means of kind of trying to force autistic people to like act more normal, you know? And in the year of our Lord 2024, we are just now having a conversation with the FDA where they are considering making electroshock therapy banned or illegal or whatever. Like, applied behavioral therapy. Thank you. That's what ABA is for. So, yeah, like, it's shocking to me that we're in, you know, year 2024 and we have an opportunity now, today, to make public comment on the FDA's website to try to change, like, whether you can use electroshock stimulation or whatever they want to call it on children, basically, with behaviors of autism that they do not like, that these therapists don't like. So this is from a post over here on Reddit. If you haven't commented on yet, the FDA is currently accepting comments on their proposal. It's a rule about banning shock devices for autistic people at the Judge Rotenberg Center, taking comments until May 28th. So that's Tuesday this week. So basically, I'm streaming this on Sunday, so make a public comment today. I'll put the website up for you to click in to make public comment, and I'm going to upload this on Monday. So as of today, Monday, you will have an opportunity to make a comment on this. and add your voice to the number of people who think, yeah, no, obviously, you should not be trying to change the behavior of autistic people, and particularly autistic children, by using electroshock therapy on them. But yeah, so even just a few sentences saying that this is a good rule would be enormously helpful. This is super important this time too, because apparently there have been changes made since the last time they tried to ban these devices, which should prevent the courts from overturning the ban. So they did have a ban on this before, but then the courts overturned it in 2020 on the grounds that apparently the FDA was not legally allowed to ban those devices. But now there has been a rule change that has made it explicit that yes, the FDA is legally and clearly allowed to ban electroshock devices for these types of quote-unquote therapy. So yeah, the Food and Drug Omnibus Reform Act of 2022 gave them this right. This section authorizes the FDA to ban specific intended uses of a medical device if that use presents an unreasonable or substantial injury risk. Excuse me. Sneeze. Okay. So this is the proposed change. Banned devices, proposal to ban electrical stimulation devices for self-injurious or aggressive behavior. So imagine using electroshock on someone to prevent them from injuring themselves. Like, let's put you through pain and potential injury in order to stop your behavior. And then yeah, as like retaliation for aggressive behavior. So this is where you can come in. There's this little like area where you can click in to comment. Submit a public comment on this document. See right there? So I'm gonna put the link down for you. If you're watching this Monday or Tuesday, it's gonna be in the description. It's gonna be the top link in the description. Summary: the Food and Drug Administration is proposing to ban electrical stimulation devices intended for self-injurious behavior or aggressive behavior. The FDA has determined these devices present an unreasonable and substantial risk of illness or injury that cannot be corrected or eliminated by labeling. This proposal follows a court decision vacating a prior ban and amendment to the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, clarifying our authority to ban a device for one or more intended uses. This action, if finalized, will mean electroshock devices for these behaviors are adulterated and not legally marketed. And so your comments must be submitted by May 28th, 2024. I'm sorry that I'm getting on this so late. I only just heard about this weekend, but the public comment period has been open since March, and the final day to submit these comments is going to be Tuesday, May 28th. So make sure you get those comments in because, like, again, it's 2024. We should not be doing this anymore. Like, we should not be torturing autistic people in order to produce, like, desirable behavioral outcomes. Like, it... And I think that this also means that... So electroshock therapy is also used for gay conversion therapy sometimes, but I don't know if this would cover that, because it says if you use electrical stimulation devices to dissuade self-injurious behavior or aggressive behavior. I think that there is a chance that you could say, oh, gay conversion therapy, we're not trying to stop them self-injuring themselves. We're just trying to stop their sexual behavior. Like, I don't know. So it may be that this needs to be expanded later. It may be that this particular ban is not going to be as far-reaching as we hope as a community of people who are interested in the well-being of autistic people and trans people and queer people. You know, it might not be as far-reaching as we want it to be, but at the very, very, very minimum, putting a stop to this for autistic kids, making sure that they're not being subjected to electroshock therapy to try to produce desirable behavior, whatever, you know. Let's make sure we get out there and submit some public comment on this. There's already like 8,000 comments, but even if we add 10 more, that's 10 more testimonies of people who say, you know, this, like, thank you for trying to change this rule. This is a good idea. We should not be using electroshock therapy. You know, a comment, something along those lines would be beneficial in this situation. Like, we should not be using torture, basically, to produce certain behavioral outcomes, which is what this is. And if you want, you can go through and read the whole thing. But the main thing is, you know, the summary is saying up top here, this is going to enable the FDA to put harsher limits on this. And yeah, if you're using electroshock therapy to treat a disorder like epilepsy, you know, that's great. And that will still be permitted. But yeah, trying to change the behavior of autistic children in a way that doesn't benefit them but does benefit their parents, or it does make them, you know, act out less in the school environment or whatever, you know, trying to change the autistic kid via torture instead of creating a more accommodating environment for them. And I'm sure that these devices have been used on adults as well, but I'm just focusing up on children in this instance because obviously that's the most egregious use of this. And I think that it tends to be children who are put through autistic conversion therapy. And of course, yeah, I will acknowledge that these types of therapies, I'm using that term very, very, very loosely in this instance, the kind of coercive attempts at behavioral change that programs like ABA do, Applied Behavioral Analysis, the kind of things that they are doing those are also harmful outside of just the use of shock therapy. Shock therapy is just like one of the most obvious unacceptable things, but we do still have more work to do on changing how we approach autistic behaviors and how we approach people who are struggling with those behaviors, because, you know, it's not like they want to be causing disruptions. It's not like they want to be aggressive. It's that their needs are not being met. And so we need to make, you know, far more progress toward accommodating disabled people like autistic people, or helping them, you know, be able to meet those daily living requirements. There are so many different things that we could be doing that aren't like toxic and harmful to people. People who go through ABA, you know, they don't really end up with exactly the behaviors that you're expecting them to have, but they do have less of the behaviors that are natural for them. And it is worth mentioning that we have normalized a high degree of cruelty toward people who have uncommon behavioral expressions. Like, it's absolutely worth mentioning, you know, it's not just conversion therapy. This doesn't start with conversion therapy. This starts with a societal lack of acceptance toward people who are different, you know? The idea that you have to conform or be, you know, socially outcast or put in conversion therapy or, you know, tortured so that you don't have those behaviors or whatever. You know, like, we can do more work as well on the interpersonal level to reduce stigma, to increase acceptance. You know, if someone is stimming, maybe just ignore it instead of making a big deal out of it. You know, I've had people comment before on, like, my fidgeting. I bounce my leg a lot, you know, and, you know, older people will sometimes be like, why don't you stay still? And it's like, okay, let me force myself to stay still, and then I won't be able to focus on this conversation. So, you know, treating people who we don't understand as though they're people with good reasons to be doing what they're doing, instead of treating them like they're weirdos who need to change in order to be part of society. Like, there are a lot of different ways that we can address this, and this is one of them. If you submit public comment, and please do so, on this proposed ban as one step in a better direction for autistic people in this country. All right, I think that's most of it. I'm going to add this to my notes so that I can make sure it ends up in the description when we go to edit this later. Chase your dreams and remember me, sweet bravery. It's a song that I've had stuck in my head for forever. Yeah, we didn't do anything serious last stream, so I don't have any stream notes for it. FDA electroshock ban. Okay, cool. Now it's in my notes. I did it. Yay, we did it. Yay! My voice is dry. Water. If someone is labeled as mentally ill, they have fewer rights than prisoners. Yeah, listen, and this is not even going into this whole discussion that's been happening recently about how, like, a lot of politicians are like, oh, we need to bring back fucking mental institutions. We need to start putting these people in these mental institutions. Like, you're just finding a way to put people in prison without them actually having committed any crime. I need to do something real quick. I'm gonna be right back. Sorry. I'm not gonna be gone for longer than like 10 seconds. So sorry, just give me a second. Okay, sorry, there was a terribly irritating noise happening in the background and I had to make it stop. Like, I don't know if you could hear it, but I could hear it and it was fucking making me mad, so had to make it stop. Speaking of autism, it's like, there is a repetitive noise happening and I need it to stop. I can't even think straight when this noise is happening. I'm sorry, I'm really retarded, guys. I did my best to ignore it, but I can't deal with another hour and a half of that noise while I'm trying to fucking do my show. Ah! Okay. We're good now. I wonder if it would be worth it to do a Walter Matheson type of comment, like argue against the rule but sound extremely cruel and ridiculous while doing it. I would not. I would just say, this is a good rule. Thank you for protecting autistic people or something, you know? Keep it simple. Oh. Okay. So, now we have 2 more seggy segs. Yeah, listen. Oh, I hate... If a noise happens, like, once every 3 minutes, I'm like, whatever. But if it's, like, a constant... Like... Or, like, a constant, like... I'm like, shut the fuck up. It drives me crazy. I actually have, they're not on my desk right now, but I actually have some pretty high quality earplugs that I've started wearing sometimes because I'm just like, the sound of the refrigerator is so fucking distracting sometimes. And that's, yeah, just one of many, 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 many noises that all kind of blur together most of the time, but it's like, oh my god, shut up. Just shh. Okay. ASMR stream. Oh, I don't have the Conquest of Bread in here. It's in my bedroom because I was reading it before bed. I don't mind snoring. Like, I don't think I really mind snoring that much. But like the sounds of like I don't know, like if it's going like like or like my keys. If I'm driving, I have my keys inserted in the car, you know? And sometimes if you're going over like a kind of bumpy road, your keys might start rattling against each other. I will like hold my keys. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shh. The A stands for annoying. Snoring is okay for me because it's people. Yeah, it's different. If it's an organic sound versus like a machine sound, these are very different things. If it's constant like a fan blowing, I like the fan blowing at night. That helps me sleep. But like my cat's water fountain sometimes is like making a bunch of noise, and I'm like, shut up, shut up, shut up. Cease and desist. Okay. Okay, let's keep things moving. Today's stream has not been bumping the way that some other streams are bumping, but I also know that I titled it something that was not going to be bumping. So, and then also we talked about a lot of shit that people don't care about. So I would assume that most people in my audience are not parents, which is why the parenting segment didn't go great. You would hate living near the railroad. Yes, I would hate living near the railroad tracks. Yeah, I would hate that. Oh my God. I have to have a fan on or my tinnitus drives me crazy. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt I would fucking hate living near a railroad. Also, part of the reason why I don't want to live in Seattle is because I don't want to live underneath 2 fucking airports. Like, no. Just no. No, 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 no. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am non-train autism. Yes, exactly. I respect the train autists, okay? I respect that you're weird, okay? But I don't want to live near trains. That sounds terrible. Like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, yeah, literally, hold on. Oh, come on. Here. This is literally me. Like, shut the fuck up. Please shut the fuck up. And like dogs making sound, like, shut up. Stop. Shh. Okay. Autism rant over. I'm done with my ranting about how much I hate noise. Okay. Shut the fuck up. Okay, let's move on. I'm ready to keep it moving. Let's do this segment about masks and then we'll get into the abortion stuff. And we'll save the abortion stuff for last, okay? As usual, if you want to donate, a $5 donation is highly appreciated. It's going to help me buy food and, you know, if I end up having any extra money, that's going to get saved so that I can move next year. Duke Bonanza has just said something that might be highly controversial. They said, on a side note, I've discovered that dumping peanut butter and jelly into a hot dog bun and eating it with milk is a fantastic idea. Okay, at first I assumed that you meant like dunking it into the milk, which I think would be a crime. I would call the police. But, I mean, yeah, a peanut butter and jelly with milk, like, it's not controversial. You're just talking about a different bread format. For the fourth time, my PayPal refuses to acknowledge my identity, sending worthless vibes instead until this shakes out. I'm sorry. I know PayPal can be such a fucking pain in the ass sometimes. I think if you dunk a peanut butter jelly into milk, then that's a crime. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that that's a crime. I don't know if we're gonna get to 100 likes today, but we'll see. Yeah, you know it's serious when the anarchist calls the police. I will call the police on you for dunking a fucking peanut butter jelly sandwich into milk. Okay. Previously on Pandemi Lovato News, there is still an ongoing pandemic with COVID, and we are getting close to a point where the bird flu is going to be communicable between human individuals, which is going to be a potential like major catastrophe because the mortality rate for that particular virus when it has previously come into contact with humans is much higher than the rate of mortality with COVID. Of course, the greater problem with COVID is the whole permanent disability aspect of it. You have a roughly like 10% chance of having a long-term or permanent effect from COVID the first time you catch it, and the second time it's closer to 20%. So every time you catch COVID, you're like increasing the risk of you having a permanent or long-term some kind of disability or damage to your body, right? So previously, there have been issues where people are claiming, oh, masks don't even work. How could you suggest that we wear a mask? It doesn't even work. Because previously, the main study that people have been citing on that, there's a couple difficulties. First of all, it's not possible for the people conducting the study to be with you every moment of the day to make sure you are or are not actually wearing the mask. If you are wearing a mask most of the day at work, and then you pull it down to eat or drink or whatever, then that is not effective use of the mask. Oh my God, the hiccups. Why? So, and also the previous main study that people were talking about on this was, it was basically treating surgical masks the same as like an N95 respirator. So I don't know if you know the difference, but like N95 respirators or even KN95 respirators, they create a seal. The ones that I buy have a nice rubber seal up top here. So they seal rubber up here and they come all the way back here and they hug your whole face. It's a seal. Now, it might not be the most sealed seal that ever sealed, but it is better than the loose surgical masks, like the blue masks that you see, like where it's like they might have a little piece of metal right here that bends, but it's like loose on your face, and it's especially loose around the sides right here. Yeah, I buy 3M brand. They start flat and you unfold them and they have the I'm serious about my respirators. So, I mean, I go to the gym and work out 4 days a week, and I go to the grocery store and stuff. Like, I get high quality masks, and I think that that's what everyone should do. I get high quality, like, respirators. So if you're studying the efficacy of masking, first of all, like, making sure that the people are actually using the mask in all situations where it should be done, like anytime you're indoors and anytime you're in a crowded outdoor space. I mean, frankly, even if you're just outdoors in general, my personal opinion is that you probably don't want to risk the exposure of even walking past a person on the sidewalk. Or, if you live in an apartment building where you go indoors and you're in these hallways to get to your apartment door, I think you should wear a mask in that situation as well, because the air is stagnant, and if somebody had been breathing out the virus, you could still get sick, So Now, we do actually have a review that is showing, in fact, which, like, duh, this is like the dumbest question I feel like we've ever had to answer. Like, does wearing a rated N95 prevent you from catching COVID? Like, did you really need a study to tell you that, like, the mask that's rated to prevent 95% of particulates from exiting it or entering it is like what? Yeah, this truly is like, yeah, germ theory of disease still extant, still the, God. Anyway, so we're looking at this article study. When a Texan farm worker caught bird flu from cattle recently, there was social media abuzz with rumors because while bird flu is not a human pandemic, scientists and policymakers the world over are keen to prepare as best they can for when such a pandemic emerges, which is a tricky task given that science is messy, policy must be pragmatic, and people's values don't always align. Time for masks to enter the chat. At the beginning of a pandemic caused by a novel or newly mutated virus, there may be no vaccine, no firm knowledge about how bad things will get, and no specific treatment, and slowing down transmission until more is known will be critical. Right. If bird flu starts spreading from person to person, we do not have a vaccine for that, and it will take time to develop a vaccine. So it's critical that we reduce the spread. Getting most people to wear a mask could nip the outbreak in the bud, preventing a pandemic entirely or lessening its impact. Wearing a mask is inconvenient. I don't know. I disagree with that for the most part, but it's not as inconvenient as lockdowns. You know, and that's the thing too. You can still go do things. You can still go out in the world and go to the grocery store and go to the gym. Like, you can still do all those things. Just wear a goddamn respirator. Life doesn't have to end. Like, can you maybe wait like 6 months for your next haircut, or like wear the mask and like hold it on your face while the person is cutting your hair? Like, you don't need to go fucking eat at a restaurant. It's not necessary. So, you know, answering the question though, do masks work? There's a review of masks and respirators that looked only at clinical trials, concluded that there was not enough evidence to assess whether mask wearing reduces the risk. However, we disagree with that. Yes. The review by the not-for-profit Cochrane collaboration failed to influence recent guidance issued by the CDC in response to the troubling news of bird flu transmission to humans. The CDC recommended well-fitting respirators, along with overalls and safety goggles for anyone working with potentially infected cattle until the bird flu threat subsides. I was reading someone who is an expert on bird flu who was saying that because we don't have absolute confirmation, like, cows are sick with bird flu right now, which means, and for some reason there's a lot of it in their mammaries, so there is evidence of bird flu in raw milk, and we don't have enough evidence to say we know for sure that pasteurization can stop the bird flu in the milk from being active virus, you know? So my family is on oat milk right now. We've switched off cow milk for the time being until we know for sure that pasteurization, or, you know, maybe we need to increase and pasteurize twice or for twice as long in order to make sure that we're killing off this virus, because we don't know for sure at this point that there is, like, that it's safe, you know? So that's, like, on top of everything else, on top of the masks thing, also be cautious and aware with your dairy consumption at this time. Yeah, the reaction to masks is not super surprising given the reaction doctors had when people suggested washing their hands between handling corpses and then women giving birth. Yeah, there was resistance in the medical community to washing hands. And I think it was actually a transgender doctor. I cannot remember his name off the top right now, but there was a doctor who suggested we start washing our hands, and there was resistance, and he was ridiculed. And then it became normalized to wash your hands in between patients. And then the idea that you should wear gloves, like latex gloves, when touching a patient, that was also something that the medical community had resistance to. Even though it seems very obvious to us today, it wasn't until the HIV epidemic that doctors started wearing masks to protect themselves from patients, that now it is just normalized. If you touch a patient at all, you wear gloves and you wash your hands after, you know? So obviously there is always this resistance for some reason to do things more safely. But yeah, don't drink raw milk, period. No, it was not James Barry. Not the one who pushed for hand washing. Okay. I thought that it was, but that's my bad. I misremembered. But James Barry was who I was thinking of, so thank you. So yeah, the CDC had recommended that well-fitting respirators could prevent the spread of bird flu. And there's a question of like, is this latest guidance based on sound evidence? And according to this review of the evidence, yes, much like the Cochrane team, we pooled data from randomized controlled trials, RCTs, and analyzed the combined data in what is called a meta-analysis. Unlike the Cochrane team, we also examined non-RCT evidence, including dozens of laboratory studies, which did show that respiratory infections, including the common cold, COVID, flu, measles, and tuberculosis, spread mainly through the air. Laboratory evidence showed that different mask materials are better or worse at filtering tiny particles and more or less breathable, especially when damp. This explains why a cloth or paper mask that has become soggy from the moisture in exhaled air gets harder to breathe through and may be less protective. Whereas medical masks are typically tied loosely around the face, therefore air can bypass the filter, respirators fit snugly and if worn at work must be fit tested to make sure that all air inhaled or exhaled passes through a high-grade filter. Now, most people are not going to do fit tests, but that doesn't mean that wearing a respirator is not effective. It just means that if you're not literally doing a fit test, then, okay, it might not be providing you all the protection that it could. But wearing a respirator is still more effective than wearing a surgical mask. And, I mean, either of those options is probably, doing more for you than not wearing a mask at all. I personally am not going to suggest that you wear blue surgical masks or any surgical mask. I don't think that those are effective at preventing you from catching COVID, right? Like, I don't think that that's going to help you, but a respirator like an N95 will. All this non-RCT evidence is crucially important for the design of the RCT tests. Because respiratory viruses float in the air, to be optimally effective, a mask must be made of high filtration material and must be fit closely. It should not be removed while indoors, or the person will immediately be exposed to infectious particles in the air. You know, COVID is not gonna like, oh, never, I'm not gonna go near you while you take a drink of your drink, you know? Like, ooh, let me pull down my masks and take a sip of my mimosa. Like, no, leave it on. And also, don't touch it. Like, don't touch the outside of your mask if at all possible. You should handle your mask by the earpiece parts and wash your hands after you touch them, because obviously, like, if you're breathing in, you're sucking virus toward your face, and then it can stick to the mask. And then if you touch the mask, and then you don't wash your hands, and you start touching your face, like, okay, congratulations, you've just put fucking COVID all over your face. Like, chill out, okay? It also follows that we should not expect RCTs of badly designed masks, masks that don't fit, or masks that are worn only some of the time to show any reduced transmission. Neither should we expect mere advice to wear masks to have any effect unless that advice is actually followed. Finally, when comparing respirators with masks in places where there is a high risk of infection, such as a hospital, the respirator needs to be worn continuously until the person leaves the building, not just popped on occasionally when doing so-called aerosol-generating procedures, such as intubating a patient. If we take these crucial details of RCT design into account, rather than just comparing any masks on, masks off experiments, we find that masks are effective and respirators even more effective in reducing the spread of respiratory disease. We can also explain why some previous reviews appeared to show that this isn't the case, because most of these previous studies of mask wearing by the public were actually trials of advice to wear masks. In both the RCTs and observational studies, such as real-world experiments, there was a dose-response effect, i.e., the more people wore their masks, the more effective the masks turned out to be. And when there is a looming pandemic, people do tend to wear their masks. So the bottom line here is that yes, we found that masks do protect in the community, and N95 respirators particularly, which are masks made using higher grade filtration material designed to fit closely around the face to protect against airborne contaminants, are superior to masks in healthcare workers, especially when respirators were worn continuously at work. Non-RCT evidence also shows that masks work and respirators work better. So of course, yeah, we can hope that we're not heading for another pandemic, but as we're contemplating that possibility and the FDA and the CDC are preparing for a new outbreak of bird flu, then yeah, the bottom line is masks work, and we do that along with improving indoor air quality and avoiding crowded, underventilated spaces. They will provide the best means of avoiding catching a respiratory infection. And the findings support previous evidence that you should not just wear any old mask, but wear the best mask available. The 3M masks that I buy are expensive because it's like 40 some odd dollars for a pack of like 25 of them. I can't remember what the box size is. You don't have to necessarily get rid of it at the end of every day. Like, I will use the same mask going to the gym for several weeks until the elastic starts to be like loose enough that I don't feel like it has a firm enough fit, you know? The less you put on and take off your mask, the longer that elastic is gonna remain like intact. So I'm not like a medical professional or anything. I'm just saying, like, this is what I do. I put on the mask and then I go into the gym for an hour and then I take off the mask and I sanitize my hands. And I do the same thing. I go to the grocery store, I put on that mask, and I go to the grocery store, and I have not gotten COVID from those daily activities. I believe that I did get the Eris strain of COVID last year at an outdoor event when I was near someone who was sick. Outdoors. I believe I caught COVID. So I didn't end up testing because I was like, oh, it's just allergies. I'm spending a lot of time outside right now. Dumb decision. Test if you're symptomatic. But yeah, like, I have not gotten sick from, again, I go to the gym. People are respirating a lot in the gym. I think that in the course of me going to the gym regularly for the last couple of years, I have seen another person wearing a mask twice. Once he ended up taking it off to drink water. And then the most recent one was a cloth mask. But I was still like, you know, what's up? Good to see you wearing a mask. Like, just gave the dude a little, like, acknowledgement. Because, yeah, like, why would you risk getting sick over and over again? Why would you risk spreading your sickness? I'm constantly hearing people clearing their throats or coughing or sneezing even in the gym. And, you know, one-way masking is not perfect. And N95 is meant to filter out 95% of particles and not 100% of particles. Like, there are more effective masks, respirators. Like the P100 is more effective than an N95. But still, like, I can buy a 20-pack, 25-pack of N95s for 40 some odd dollars, and it lasts at least a month, if not longer. So it is obvious to anyone with a brain, but now we have data, if you need to look at the data, to say, look, this is the move. This is the correct thing to do. My brain's making the analogy with this whole mask thing that it's the difference between putting a condom on properly or over your balls. Yeah, like, if you wear a mask and it, like, drifts down below your nose, or if you take it off to drink, or if it's really loose fitting on you, like, obviously it's not a prophylactic. It's not an appropriate barrier. Wearing masks has been obvious to me considering how other countries in the East wear masks in public and it's just considered a normal practice. Yeah, if you're on public transit and you're like in China or Japan, if you have sniffles or allergy or whatever, like it's considered polite to wear a mask. And they're usually wearing like surgical masks, but that is like it's keeping most of your air, it's keeping a lot of your air in your face. So like you're not breathing out and expelling as high of a volume of virus directly into other people's faces, you know? Like why is this not normalized? Like this is part of what I dislike about American culture is that it's highly individualized. Like, well, I have the right to go out and cough and like not cover my face. Like actually you have an obligation. Like public health means public health. There is no public health if you think an individual right to infect other people exists. Like you don't have a right to infect other people. In fact, I was Googling this recently. So I don't know if you've ever considered spitting on someone. Like it's assault. You know, if you spray someone with water and they didn't want to be sprayed with water, that's assault, legally speaking. Spitting on someone is assault. Like having sex with someone when you know you have HIV and you don't tell them, like that's considered a form of assault. Coughing on someone is also assault. And now in most places you have a duty to retreat. So like if you're wearing a mask and someone goes out of their way to cough on you, your first obligation is to move away, but that's assault and you can have them charged for it. And you have a right to defend yourself using proportional force. So if someone coughs on you and you move away and they continue following you and coughing on you, you have the right to shove them or whatever. Like you have the right to physically defend yourself because that is assault. Yeah, here in the US, we've got the freedom to be as gross and obnoxious as possible. Yeah. And like they don't have to be infected for you to feel like your life is in danger and react proportionately, to be clear. Even if they were tested and it turned out they were not positive for COVID, it's like if someone was brandishing a weapon at you and it wasn't loaded, but you didn't know that it wasn't loaded, like you still have the right to defend yourself because there is a reasonable understanding that your life could be at risk, right? Yeah, imagine if someone had smallpox on a handkerchief and started like shoving it in people's faces. You know, you're deliberately trying to cause alarm to me and potentially infect me. And like, yeah, if you can say I had a reasonable expectation that I could be harmed seriously by this person's action, like someone spitting on you is a form of assault. So is coughing directly in someone's face. Unfortunately, it was against the rules for me to wear a face covering at school, so I would get told to remove them whenever I wore a mask while sick. Wow. This is why I hate public schools. Like, or I guess maybe you're in college, I don't know, but like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if it's against your policy for me to wear a face covering. Like, if you had a student who had cancer, would that student with a severely compromised immune system not be allowed to wear a mask? Like, God, people just be power tripping for no reason. Jesus Christ. And I'm pretty sure that's an ADA violation. But whatever. And there are other reasons to wear a fitted respirator as well. Allergies. If you wear a respirator outside, it will dramatically reduce your allergy symptoms. And also, like, pollution is on the rise. Wildfires are on the rise. You know, checking the air. If you live in a city, you've got pollution. If you live anywhere where there's wildfires, you know, there are for some people, like there's like a wildfire season every year. Like I know folks up in the Pacific Northwest have mentioned to me before that, like, yeah, every year in August, it just is wildfire season and there's smoke everywhere. Smoke can kill you, like, and can cause cancer, you know, if you're breathing it in all the time like that. Wildfire smoke. So there are more reasons besides just COVID and bird flu to wear a fitted respirator. It's probably just the best call to just anytime you leave your house, just be wearing a mask. Just point blank, period. It like, and if you wear one all the time, then it doesn't matter what circumstances. You know, there are people who are like, oh, I will wear a mask if I'm symptomatic. But you can still spread stuff even if you don't have symptoms. And also, what are you considering symptoms? Are you testing for COVID and flu when your quote unquote allergies start to get bad? Yeah, it makes sense if you're like, let's not wear a Halloween mask. But for you to, like, for all face coverings to include, like, a medical respirator, whatever, don't even get me started. I hate public schools. The concept of public schools is good. The way that we do it right now sucks so bad. But yeah, just make it a habit. Every time you're outside, every time you go anywhere, just wear a fucking respirator. Like, keep it simple, keep it moving. All right. I'm glad that I did cover that. Thanks to whoever shared that on Blue Sky. I don't normally get my political content from Blue Sky, but that was one that I thought was worth it. Masks do work, duh. There we go. Now that's in my notes. All right, we basically have like our main story left tonight, and then I'm gonna leave you guys to go eat something. Hit the like button if you haven't hit the like button already. Dude, it was so funny how my tongue didn't want to work after we did the hot ones thing. I like, la 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 la. I was having a difficult time speaking. The hot sauce. My tongue was like, owie. Fucking da bomb. It's disgusting. Ugh. Public schools often fall short of being the essential community service that they should be, and it's hard for me to point to any cause other than the obsessive top-down approach we're so determined to take for some reason. Yeah, I mean, public schools are institutions of authority that are meant to produce pliant workers. They let bullying run rampant. They punish children who retaliate against their bullies after months and months and months of telling the teachers and having the teachers and the administration not do anything. The way that we do grades and tests are not meant to produce people who know stuff. They're producing people who are capable of memorizing things in the short term. And, like, it doesn't really ultimately matter if you actually know. And then there's, like, the whole No Child Left Behind thing, which is, like, you're not allowed to hold kids back if they don't do the work. So you're, like, pushing kids through. I know someone who is in public school who, at the age of 16, was getting tutoring, learning, like, fractions, which, like, fractions are a thing that you learn in elementary, like, late elementary school, right? So that's someone in public school who just keeps getting shoved to the next grade, even though they're not able to learn the thing. It's like, okay, you can't learn this next thing if you don't know the previous thing, but they're not really trying that hard to make sure that the kids are staying pace for pace, you know, with their classmates. So there's a lot of educational failure in this country. Like, a lot of educational neglect, honestly. Lord have mercy, I'm so thirsty. Yeah, nothing fosters community like underpaying your staff to watch over more students than anyone could possibly remember the names of or appropriately form a relationship with. Sam says, our public education is a national security threat. The dumber our population is, the worse off we will be. No shit. Yeah. Public schools, public shul. I think someone retweeted me from a private account today. Interesting. You don't need fractions to be a physical laborer, likely many leaders' mindsets. It's dumb to say that you don't need to know fractions to be a physical laborer. It's like, does your job require measuring things ever? You know what's on a tape measure? Like, you need to know what a 1/4 inch is. You need to know what 3/8 looks like. You need to be able to measure like 5/16 sometimes, you know? Like, you absolutely do need to know fractions in order to be a physical laborer. But of course, it's the kind of people who've never fucking done a day's physical work in their life who make these determinations, you know? Fucking Betsy DeVos or whatever has never worked a day in her life. Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my mind. Oh, my eyeballs. Yeah, COVID doesn't really live for very long on surfaces. It does live on surfaces for a short period of time, but not very long. Thank you so much, Himjack. 5 gifted tier 1 subs. Enjoy. Death Died Today, Jade of Awesome, Thumb Warrior, Corpse Candy, and the Palm Top Tiger. Enjoy your gifted subs. They said ST the second, Attack of the Dono. True. Attack of the Dono. Appreciate you. Don't need fractions with metric. Fucking true. Unfortunately, the US is dumb about this. Dumb. These idiots are the same ones who say pizza is a vegetable dish because of marinara. Depending on how much sauce there is on there, I guess it could technically be a serving of vegetables, but it is also like carbs and fat from the cheese. Yes, enjoy the dicks, everyone. Thank you. We're at $55 on the donos today. If we get $45 more donated, I will remove my top and flex. That will happen. Mersh says, I hate to say it, but I think conservatives are actively trying to dumb down public schools. Would like to privatize them like they did prisons, profit motive, and control over the masses at the same time, ruining public schools. No, I agree with you. We've talked about it before. When you open up schools to lawsuits by saying like, oh, if you allow a trans kid to use their preferred bathroom, then a parent who doesn't like that could go ahead and sue the school. It's a way of indirectly underfunding the schools. Like they're trying to like, you know, if they can't directly defund the schools, then they'll just open them up to all this liability. Me too, pizza sounds good now. Pizza might be on the menu, boys. I'm quoting Lord of the Rings. I'm not misgendering you. Sorry. Like, meat's back on the menu, boys. You get it? Yeah? We're orcs now. I'm orcish. I guess you could put some roasted carrot in, like, a marinara sauce. How would that... I wonder if that would be yummy. Yeah, exactly. Looks like pizza's back on the menu, boys. The one time I prefer imperial units outside of just the familiarity is temperature measurements in everyday life. True. Okay. I think Celsius matters if you're doing science stuff, okay? Like smaller scale science stuff. Like the temperature of water, okay? If you want to measure that in Celsius, whatever, I don't care. Fahrenheit makes sense for human temperature. Like 0 degrees is very cold. 100 degrees is very hot. 70-ish degrees is like an average looking temperature. Like it's like pretty nice, okay? 40 degrees it's like, okay. Lower than 50 is like, yeah, exactly. I think that Fahrenheit is inherently better for human feels. And then you use Kelvin for like the universal scale. As many toppings as I load on pizza, it might count for a serving of veggies. Ideally. Fahrenheit makes sense for human temps if that's what you're used to. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it makes more... I mean, of course, nothing makes sense if you're not used to it. But, like, comparatively, the scale of Celsius doesn't conform to any, like, any other... Like, as a person who, like, says metric is the way to go, where everything is, like, you know, either 0, 10, 100, whatever. Like, if anything, Fahrenheit follows that format better in that sense, where it's like a scale of 0 to 100, as opposed to being like, okay, 0 degrees is like the temperature at which water freezes, or like 22 degrees is like, okay, it's temperate, and like 40 degrees is like, okay, it's too hot to be outside today. You know, like it doesn't... It, like, honestly, Fahrenheit makes more sense objectively in the same way that metric makes more sense objectively, because there's less, like... It's, like, easier to convert one... Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, being used to Celsius for human temperatures doesn't mean that it makes more sense. Just like me using imperial measurements doesn't objectively make more sense just because I'm used to it. Fahrenheit's good for cheap digital thermometers. More precision in 3 digits. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if people who do metric are going to be like, metric is better, then I think it's totally fair for me to say Fahrenheit is better for the exact same reasons. Imperial units are initially based on, like, rule of thumb style ways of using things we're familiar with the size of to ballpark measure things. So it makes sense that a lot of imperial units feel more appropriate to the human experience. I could see that argument. Like, if, like, an inch is, you know, the average width of, like, a person's thumb. So, like, thumbs, or, like, a foot, like, a foot measurement. Like, okay, I'm just gonna walk and, like, go, okay, like, this is, you know, 4 feet, roughly, based on whatever. And I do think that's useful. I have things like, my hand, if I spread out my hand wide, it's like 7.5 inches from one finger to this, to like from the end of my pinky to the end of my thumb. And so that's a way for me to kind of gauge, like, oh, okay, that's like, okay, that's about 7 inches or whatever. Or like, yeah, if I knew exactly what the width of my thumb is, then I could go like, okay, all right, that's about 5 inches. Kitty Tick says, I'm finally back, but I have been listening. Rapid fire response. Only people who want kids should have kids. Having kids does not magically make you like them. Electroshock should be 100% illegal 100% of the time. Also, my mom has avoided even getting a flu while having lupus for over 10 years, which is an immunocompromised disease, I believe. She did this by wearing homemade fabric masks with a charcoal filter sewn in that she would keep 4 or 5 on her for swapping so they didn't get moist. Simply wear a mask. Also, dick move my keffels. True. Yeah, rapid fire. Okay. Oh my god, I am getting hungry. Okay, let's talk about this Louisiana thing, huh? Let's drink some water, and then we'll tuck in and talk about this abortion shit. I think this is a good point as well. Viren says Fahrenheit has the big caveat that it's better for feels because it's a finer scale centered in everyday livable temperatures. I do simulations and need to know things like the temp and Kelvin and such, and I would never trade Fahrenheit into that. It's like also Celsius is like less precise. Like the difference between 71 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit, you would have to measure in the decimals for Celsius. Like from a scale of 0 to 100, because we all understand what 0 to 100 means in like every other context, like I still think Fahrenheit makes more sense for human experience. Like 0, too cold to be outside. 100, too hot to be outside. 50 degrees, kind of in the middle, maybe not exactly warm, but it's not like gonna hurt you levels of cold. And then like, yeah, I don't know. It just, like understanding that like, because we operate everything in base 10, because we have 10 fingers, like, yeah, that's my argument for Fahrenheit. Yeah, I mean, literally everything that human beings do is subjective. 0 degrees F is not too cold unless you're a wuss. Like, maybe it's because I live somewhere where it's more humid. I don't know. Like, I also am skinny. So, like, maybe that's the thing. Like, I'm more sensitive to the cold. Like, 0F, you need to be wearing some serious winter gear in order to be outside safely. Like, you can't just be wearing, like, a jacket and jeans and go out in 0F for any period of time and expect to, like, be okay. You know? Like, I don't know. And it's windy as fuck where I live, too. Yeah, you're right. It will be typically more dry during those cold temperatures. That's true. But yeah, like, it's windy here. Like, 0F is, like, if you're gonna be outside for longer than, like, 10 minutes, you should probably be, like, wearing good gear. 100, too hot. Someone has not lived in the Southwest before. Dry heat is better if it's 100 degrees, but, like, again, I live in Kansas. 100 degrees is, like, that's wet. Those are wet bulb temperatures. Your sweat is not helping you cool down at 100 degrees F in Kansas. Yeah, that wind chill is what gets you. Byron says, if it's cold enough for my sweat to basically freeze, then it's cold. But I did grow up in South Louisiana where 90 degrees Fahrenheit is like way past wet bulb temps. Yeah. Whether 0F or 100F is too cold or too hot, as we see here, is also subjective. If you need personal protective equipment to be outside for an hour, then that is like, like, if you could not be outside, like, okay, human beings have clothing and like a high amount of technological advancement that has gone into creating clothing that is like safe, yeah? But like, so if you were to go outside for 1 hour in 0F, just wearing regular clothes, that would not be good for you. And especially if you get any longer than that, that would not be good for you. If you go out in 100 degrees F and you don't have like a fan or something, like, even if it's like, if it's humid enough, then like it doesn't even make any difference. Like, if you need personal protective equipment, one more thing for me, Kitty says, I don't want to mask because it restricts my breathing, bitches. I worked as a resin floor installer in PHX, in Phoenix, Arizona in the summer during COVID. We worked 90% in hospitals and were required to be masked or respirator 100% of the time. 115 degrees Fahrenheit weather, no air conditioning in the unfinished buildings, and I could always breathe. grinding concrete for 1 hour in 100 degrees with oh yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead and grind concrete for 1 hour in 100-degree weather without a mask and you will want one. Yeah. And like, yeah, I overheat very easily and I still wear a mask and go to the gym and like work out and do cardio and shit. Yeah, that wind chill is what fucking does it though. People swim outside in 0F. The water isn't 0F. Like, the water is like 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, concrete dust. Like, anything that cures, you don't want to breathe that dust in. Okay, we gotta do this abortion thing. I keep putting it off. We gotta do this fucking abortion topic. And then we can wrap things up for today. Okay, we gotta do this. We gotta. Oh my god, why? Yes, saltwater has a lower freezing temperature than fresh water. And a higher boiling temperature than fresh water, for sure. It feels kind of surreal to me that we're still, like, that we're mired in these, like, conversations about abortion, that, you know, the Supreme Court was going to hear a case about whether mifepristone is, like, allowed to be on the market and everything. And it seems crazy to me because, of course, I'm a person who's, like, I've known people my entire life who've had abortions in, like, for different reasons. Sometimes it's medical, like, because people who have a miscarriage get the same abortion procedure as someone who's just getting an abortion. I mean, just getting an abortion, but like, versus a person who is getting an abortion for a non-medical reason, like because they can't afford a baby, or because they're trying to get away from their abuser or whatever. So it's so silly to me because, yeah, like, my mom had 2 abortions. One of them was about like a year after I was born, because she was a teenager and already was a mother of 1 child as a teenager. And so, yeah, she got an abortion because she was not able to, like, have 2 children as a 16-year-old or however old she was. So, yeah, it's silly to me that we're still having this discussion. But you know what? Louisiana coming in strong, saying that, like, basically, there's, like, the surgical abortion where they go and they like, clean out in the inside of there. They, like, suck everything out. Then there's, like, chemical or medical abortions where it's like, it's not Plan B. Plan B is the thing you do when you're trying to prevent yourself from getting pregnant. Like, you have an accident or you are sexually assaulted or something, and you do Plan B to prevent pregnancy, right? The discussion that we're having today is about abortion-inducing medications. So you know that you're pregnant. Let's say you're about a week late for your period. You take a pregnancy test, and it's positive. So you definitely are pregnant, but you've only been pregnant for, like, less than 6 weeks, right? Still in the first trimester, still very early on. You can take a pill that will induce an abortion. And now you do have to still be careful, because sometimes that's not effective. If you're getting close to that 12-week mark, it's not effective, or maybe your body doesn't fully purge everything. You might still have to go get the surgical procedure done, right? But generally speaking, it's a way to make abortion much more accessible. You can even get these pills through the mail in a lot of different places. So we're going to discuss them today because Louisiana's governor has signed a bill making Louisiana the first state in the United States to classify these abortion-inducing medications as controlled substances, which means like it's a category that healthcare regulators typically reserve for drugs prone to abuse or addiction. Like, oh my God, I'm so addicted to abortions. I'm just going to keep taking mifepristone over and over again. What? Okay. The measure, thrusting Republican-led efforts to restrict abortion back to the political forefront in a presidential election year, was in fact signed into law by the Republican Governor Jeff Landry a day after the state legislature sent it to his desk. The bill cleared Louisiana's Republican majority House of Representatives and Senate by wide margins, even as efforts by the FDA to expand access to abortion pills is facing a legal challenge before the Supreme Court. So yeah, we're still dealing with this whole Supreme Court case. This law designates mifepristone and misoprostol, which the FDA approved more than 2 decades ago, as safe and effective for terminating pregnancy. Suddenly now they are Schedule IV drugs, which typically such things as painkillers and mood-altering medications would be under that. And like those medications merit greater oversight due to the potential for abuse or dependence. Louisiana hanging out near the top of worst education, now coming in hot with this headline, you won't believe isn't out of Florida. True. Yeah, it puts these pills in the same category as Xanax and Valium, which are, you know, gate-kept to a certain degree because of the fact that they are quite addictive. Although neither mifepristone nor misoprostol are considered by the medical establishment to pose an addiction hazard of any kind. So this reclassification is going to make it riskier for Louisiana residents who are already subject to a near-total ban on surgical and medical-induced abortions to obtain these pills from out of state or order them online without a prescription. Of course, critics say that this will make it harder for patients to obtain the drugs when they are prescribed for routine uses, such as inducing labor and childbirth. Yeah, like this is like a labor induction drug as well. Or treating miscarriages and reducing the risk of serious bleeding from ulcers. Doctors will need a special license to prescribe the drugs, like beyond their usual scope of, like doctors already have a license to prescribe things, so they need a special license. Those prescriptions are also going to be entered into a state database that law enforcement can access without a warrant. Police state. We live in a police state. Critics say that situation could compromise patient privacy and expose physicians to unwarranted investigation and pregnant people to unwarranted investigation. Like, these drugs can help you finish passing a miscarriage that you've already started to have. Imagine your miscarriage becoming a criminal investigation. Like, let's say it's a baby you wanted and you miscarry. And now, because you needed to seek a medical abortion or a surgical abortion, either way in Louisiana, imagine that becoming a criminal investigation. The baby that you wanted, the baby that you were looking forward to having. Kristen Moore, who is ahead of the nonprofit Expanding Mediation Abortion Access, Expanding Medication Abortion Access, that's a typo, has added that it creates more onus, more chaos, and confusion for people accessing this medication, saying that this is intended to put mifepristone and misoprostol back under lock and key. The 2 pills are usually taken together as a 2-drug regimen, which allows women and anybody who's pregnant to terminate a pregnancy at home. And these now account for more than 60% of all abortions in the United States. This bill is going to make unprescribed possession of these pills a crime punishable by 1 to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $5,000. So yeah, again, you're going to go to prison for up to 5 years for this. Yeah, one of many reasons why my wife and I will not be settling in Louisiana when I finish my PhD. Like, you're running people out of the state. You're ruining the economy of your state by running people out of it. And if you were to cross state lines and access it across state lines, you can't take them at home. Because even possessing the pills is a crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Although, actually, interestingly, this next sentence says, pregnant women are expressly exempt from punishment for violation of the measure. However, any other person who might help them obtain the drugs, such as friends, family members, or healthcare providers, could be subject to prosecution. Does that mean that, like, if the drugs are in your house, your husband could be prosecuted because he is technically in possession since they're in his home? Women who are not pregnant but obtain the pills to have on hand as a precaution are also not exempt. So I guess if you are the pregnant person, like, that's a weird exception. That's a very weird exception. Oh, of course, supporters of this bill said that placing mifepristone and misoprostol under greater regulatory control is intended to curtail their distribution for illicit purposes, such as coerced medication abortions that the larger bill aims to prevent. Because, yeah, I guess one of the main parts of this bill was like, we're going to outlaw coerced criminal abortion by means of fraud. Like, which basically means if someone drugs you so that you have a miscarriage, but is that not already like a crime? Like, is that not already illegal? Like, drugging someone without their permission? I don't know. It's super weird. Okay, yeah, look at this. Like, the measure's chief sponsor, Senator Thomas Presley, I've heard his name before, and I hate that guy, named the bill for his sister, whose then husband slipped abortion drugs he obtained from Mexico into her drinks, causing her serious health effects and the premature birth of her daughter, who did survive. The husband, whom she divorced, was later convicted in a domestic violence case and sentenced to 180 days in jail. So, like, this tells me that it is already, like, actionable. I mean, I guess unless there's a suggestion that the domestic violence was for some other thing. But, like, yeah, drugging someone, it seems like you could just count that under domestic violence and we don't need to make an entire new law. Like, they're just trying to crack down on people having access to this drug at all. And it is worth pointing out that Louisiana has a pretty high rate of unwanted pregnancies in the state. Like, this is from 2017. Among pregnancies, women aged 15 to 44 in each state in the U.S., the proportion that were wanted later or were not wanted in Louisiana is 43%. So among women, like, it's weird to say women aged 15. Okay, whatever. Females aged 15 to 44. I don't know, whatever. Like, there's not a good way to phrase that, especially because this conversation always leaves out transmasculine people, but whatever. People able to bear children starting from age 15 to 44 in each state, looking at those numbers of which ones wanted the pregnancy later or did not want it at all, 43% in Louisiana. So, like, yeah, you're just taking away options. And a lot of the times, the people who are seeking these procedures are already mothers. Like, I haven't looked at the statistics in a while, but the statistics like 10 years ago were that the majority of people seeking abortion are already parents. Like, they already have kids. And so part of the reason why they're getting an abortion is because they need to be able to continue to work to support their children, their existing children, you know? So it's always the case that, like, these states have worse sex healthcare. Like they have worse education for sex wellness. So these southern states that cut funding for sex education, and they try to make it harder to get a hold of birth control, so they have a higher rate of unwanted pregnancies, and then they try to limit your ability to get abortion, but they also don't have very good welfare to support young parents or parents who don't have good resources, like poor parents. Like, it's like it's such a sick combination of things. It's such a like repugnant, disgusting combination of things. Yeah, they make these laws. Oh, yeah, there's an exception for the pregnant women. Oh, you can't prosecute a pregnant woman for possessing these drugs for herself. And it's like, yeah, Viren says it's so that they can speak out both sides of their mouth and say, "Oh, we don't seek to punish women for getting an abortion, but you're not allowed to keep the drugs on hand just in case. If your husband goes and picks up the prescription for you, then he could be prosecuted for possessing them illegally." Like, yeah, there are just so many stupid things about this. It's like the one good thing about living in Kansas is that it's in our Constitution. Like the Supreme Court determined some years ago that it's in our Constitution. Like the way that the Constitution is written, it implies full bodily autonomy control for pregnant individuals. Like, that's the one good thing about living in this shithole state, is that I have a constitutional right to seek an abortion. They can't make it illegal here. They did try to pass a constitutional amendment to make an exception, like, oh, you have full bodily autonomy, except if you're pregnant. But yeah, we smacked that down, and the majority of voting adults in Kansas said, no, we're going to protect abortion, actually. So, kind of everything else sucks about living here, but that is one good thing. Yeah, and it will also have the effect of scaring people and grassroots organizations away from helping pregnant people access abortion medication. Like, a lot of the time you need a prescription to get this shit anyway. It's also worth keeping in mind that the state has basically sank itself, literally, from its years of endorsement of the fossil fuel industry more directly than you might think. There are good things about the cultural heritage from Louisiana, but the place itself has rotted from the inside decades ago on these political issues. Yeah. I hate that whole mentality of we're just going to write off the South. Oh, we can't do anything. We can't change anything. Because there are going to always be women there who need this healthcare. There are always going to be trans people who need access to this type of healthcare and, you know, more generally, like, trans-specific healthcare. And there are always going to be gay kids being born down there. But, like, at this point, it does feel like an insurmountable issue that the moneyed interests, the powerful interests in southern states, yeah, they're defunding education. They're defunding public health. They're criminalizing things that are totally normal and like necessary human behavior and like medically necessary things like abortion. It's just not good. It's not helping anybody except people who are trying to make money and control other people. And like, oh, I guess we need more people in the prisons. Like, do they need more prison labor? Is that why they're making it like punishable by up to 5 years in prison? It's impossible to know these people's motives because, I mean, it's hard for honest people like our community to understand the motives behind these people. Because I'm like, I just can't understand being that evil. Like, I just don't get how you can do so much objective harm to people and still sleep at night and also still think you're safe in your bed at night. Like, if you're going to be criminalized for getting an abortion, like if you're going to be put in jail for it, then like you might as well commit an additional violent crime because you're already going to jail anyway. Louisiana is #1 per capita for prison population, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I don't know. They're getting subsidies for how many people they have in the prisons or something. I don't know what the deal is, but if you live in Louisiana, I recommend not doing that. Which is easier said than done. You know, I live in Kansas and I want to get the hell out of here, but I have a lease and I'm going to wait until the lease is up and save up money to get out of here. And like, yeah, I just have to deal with the fact that I can't use public restrooms in the meantime. Andy says, yes, it has been intentionally done for cheap prison labor, and people have said that out loud before. Mm-hmm. Well, good luck out there. Anybody who lives in Louisiana. I'm sorry that even though many medical professionals testified on your behalf, that the legislators in your state are not interested in your safety. All right, do we have anything else for this, or should this just go in my notes? I feel like it's basically everything that I needed to cover on that. Toxicity. I haven't listened to System of a Down in a long time. My mom used to be really into System of a Down, though, which is kind of why I don't like to listen to them, I think. Abusive parent. The weird things that you want to avoid. I just want to get people's, I just want to gauge people's response to this really quick. What are your associations with the phrase, "That's not a threat, it's a promise"? Has anyone ever said that to you before? What are your associations with that phrase? I'm curious. I know there's a little bit of a delay because I increased the stream latency recently, so I'll wait a second. I have exactly the number of kids I want right now, and a big part of why is access to Plan B when problems like a condom break occurs. True. I took Plan B once because I think I forgot to take my pill one night. And the circumstances surrounding it were just like just a bad combo, and I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and take Plan B just to make sure. Mersh says, it is a threat. Kitty says, that phrase usually means someone's gonna try and kill me. Reminds me of my stepdad. I say that when I've run out of nonviolent alternatives. Basically, somebody's out for blood when they say that. Yeah. My mom used to say that to me when she was basically like, I will be violent toward you later if you don't do what I'm telling you to do right now. I just, you know, there's this whole thing, you know, the whole Poppy and Xena situation and their girlfriend, Sage, or I guess only Poppy's girlfriend now, whatever. But like, Sage said something on Twitter, a series of threatening tweets that ended with the phrase, "That's not a threat, it is a promise." And I was like, congratulations on sounding like a child abuser. That's what my mom used to say. Sounds like a death threat. My take is it is a strong, violent threat. It looks like Louisiana is #2 to Mississippi now for per capita prisoners, both beating the top countries that statistic can even be found for. I feel like I've heard that phrase in shows, but my gut reaction was like a parent was saying that to me, which didn't make me feel good. Yeah. It's not a threat, it's a promise. That means I will hurt you later. Like, it's like straight up something an abusive person says, in my humble opinion. So, I just wanted to get y'all's gauge on that. Like, it like, it's basically saying like, oh, you thought it was a threat? You bet it's a threat. Like, that's how it comes across to me. I used to hear that phrase in JROTC as a kid. I feel like it's just a layer of obfuscation, so we can't say we were threatened. Like, no, I explicitly said it's not a threat. How could it be a threat then? I used to get, I brought you into this world, I can take you out. Yeah, my mom never said that to me, I don't think. It made me feel like they were promising to hurt me. Yeah, it's I promise I'll hurt you, is what it's saying. I've heard that phrase before, and I've had it in my head before, but don't know from where. Yeah. It's just, it's not a thing that you say as, like, a good person. You got a gifted sub, Corpse Candy. Himjack gave a gifted sub. So, yeah, I was like, the only time I've ever heard that phrase is when my mom, who regularly was violent to me, was promising to be violent to me again. So, yeah, it only comes across to me as something that an abuser would say. So I just wanted to get y'all's opinion on it. Just as a fun little, like, to specify why I'm bringing this up, yeah, Sage said that, and then I tweeted, you know, I quoted, "That's not a threat, it's a promise." So said my abuser mom when she was preparing to be violent toward me. And then Sage changed her screen name. It's all garbled, because it's all, like, dumb alt text, whatever, but it says Luxander's mom. And I'm like, oh, congratulations on aligning yourself with a literal child abuser. I have said that phrase in retaliation to defense against a bully. Yeah. I never thought of it as an abuser thing. If you're in, like, if you're in a position of less power, it's a way of defending yourself, right? But it's saying I'm willing to use violence to defend myself. But if it's coming from a person who, the phrase is, "That's not a threat, it's a promise," Captain Vaughn, is what we're discussing right now. As Mersh says, I received that threat in high school once, just before I punched a guy. I figured if he was promising, I might as well let him have it right then. Why wait for him to start it? Yeah, that's pretty funny. So I just wanted to get y'all's opinion on that. Because obviously I'm coming at this as a person who's like, yeah, I only ever heard that phrase when violence was imminent. And it was not uncommon for her to say that to me. Like, I mean, it happened more than once, I guess is a good way to say that. We got trauma. We're working through it every day. We got the trauma. All right. Do we have anything we can discuss before we get ready to wrap up? Because I am hungry. Yeah, that's awful for a parent to say. And I mean, she had already been violent toward me. So she's like, oh, I'm going to do that later. Yeah. It's literally affirming the likelihood of acting on the threat. I could only ever imagine saying it in a situation where I think it would be humorous on a meta level. Yeah. Like, let me say something threatening and then specify, that's not a threat, it's a promise. Like, you've just taken what was already a threat and made it more of a threat. You know? Yeah, she was a card. She was, and I say was, I don't know if she's dead. She's probably not dead. I don't think she is. I saw one of my family members tag her on Facebook recently, so I don't think she's dead, but we're gonna speak about her in the past tense anyway. She was the worst. I mean, it probably could have been worse, but she was terrible. I've had dreams about her recently, and a lot of the times in my dreams, I'm like, get the fuck away from me, and then I threaten her with violence. Oh man, I felt like I really missed out on saying that phrase to her in my dream. I most recently had a dream with her in it. Like, most of the dream was fine, and then she was in it right at the end, and I was like, you're gonna get the fuck out of here. And I don't remember what exactly, but I threatened her. I was basically like, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you if you don't get the fuck away from me. And it's really, it was one of those times where it's like you have an argument, and then later you remember oh, I should have said this. When I was awake, I was like, damn, I missed out on saying, and that's not a threat, it's a promise to her, like in my dream. As a joke, I sometimes say to my sparring partner, I'm about to show you the true meaning of domestic abuse. Yeah. I could see myself jokingly saying, if you feed me that, I will get sick and gassy. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Yeah. You know, if you're joking or whatever. But if there is a precedent where you've already indicated that you're willing to be violent towards someone, like, there's no way that that can come across as a joke. I appreciate y'all giving me your feedback on this one. I was just like, I need to ask someone who doesn't have my life experience how that phrase comes across. So, yep. All right. Well, I am done covering topics for today. We did 2 hours of chill time at the beginning of the show, so I feel like I'm just about ready to wrap up and see about getting myself some lunch or something. So I appreciate y'all hanging out. Thank you for donating, everybody who donated. We do not get a flex today. I'm so sorry. Maybe later this week we'll get another flex. All right. But for now, I will bid you adieu. And I'm planning to see you Wednesday, my dudes. So have a good start to your week, everybody. If you have a Memorial Day plans, have a good Memorial Day, etc., etc. And I'll see you later.